There was a little girl I only knew. What was it to me, the stories ain't true. It was ingrained every night and day. It's just a story, so I told my head. But when I met you, I just knew all those stories were about to come true. But they were reading to me every night. Oh, hoping one day that I would see that light. But I'm on the floor for you.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the
I
right
didn't
spot.
even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
Oh, it was meant to be that way. Come on in, bring us in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talking. Shh. Did you hear what I said? I said Talking. Shh. IT with, well, Tony, obviously.
Well, Glenn's here in spirit.
Very busy, so he's definitely here with us in spirit. And we have SR at Silent Rose and James at Ominous Filth. And, well, you all know me, Angified.
She's our crystal ball.
So, how will we start this Talking IT episode?
Well, tonight's kind of a special episode. I actually got the idea from Kevin Pendleton on what makes a song a hit. And as I went down the rabbit hole, I kind of figured we're going to have to talk about Billboard because it's the Billboard charts that all hits are judged by.
Very cool. Well, big shout out to Kevin Pendleton for the inspiration.
Yeah, and hey, Kevin, look, we're going to take notes.
Woo!
So as we go through this, I'd like to see what these videos say, what you guys think. I'd like to make a list of all the ingredients to a hit song and then start to sort them to figure out which ingredient actually makes the hit song the hit song.
Okay.
Hey.
Sounds good to me. If you're out there and you're watching on BandLab, please go ahead and over to either youtube.com/Angified or youtube.com/TalkinShit or the Twitch, same as the ID, twitch.tv/Angified or twitch.tv/TalkinShit.
Yeah, we'll be bringing some of your comments in if you're over on YouTube or Twitch.
Yeah. Also, if you're on Facebook, we can see yours as well. So thank you for joining us. Angified knows. Okay, so what's next, Tom?
Well, to start, let me get this explanation of Billboard, because Billboard's been around a lot longer than I thought. And this first video is actually the history behind Billboard. It's a great explanation about where it started, how it works, and where we are these days with the history behind it.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited.
And
Jake's here.
this one comes from,
Okay.
I got it. It's from Pulse Music over on YouTube. I believe, yeah, it's at Pulse Music 9596.
Okay.
And she's going to explain to us the Hot 100 songs in Billboard magazine from 1894. That's how long Billboard's been around.
Whoa.
I know, I was as surprised as you.
Well, let's get on to the talking some.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Pulse. So, did you know the Beatles have 20 number one songs? That Jay-Z has 14 number one albums? Or that Mariah Carey has spent 79 cumulative weeks at number one? This is all data from Billboard's Hot 100 Songs and 200 Album Charts, the definitive music data chart that music enthusiasts and analysts use to log pop hits. So, how did Billboard become the juggernaut that we know it as today? Let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
Billboard magazine's Hot 100 chart has long been the benchmark for the music industry to rank its most important and impactful hits during any given time. The chart as we know it now is a unified and all-encompassing popularity chart, measured by individual metrics that is streaming, radio, airplay, and sales, both physical and digital. But Billboard was radically different from what we know it as today. Grover Cleveland was U.S. president. Coca-Cola was sold in bottles for the first time, and Carl Benz of Germany received a U.S. patent for gasoline-driven auto. In short, it was a long time ago. This was 1894, and Billboard Advertising had just published its first issue. Yes, Billboard was actually established as an advertising and bill posting service, very different from what we know it as today. It was founded by William Donaldson and James Hennigan, with the former handling the editorial and advertising, and the latter handling magazine production through his printing company. Advertising during this time was mainly done using posters, billboard, and paper, and was the company's main focus. After Hennigan's departure in 1900, because of editorial differences, Donaldson revamped the magazine's operations, including changing it from a monthly to a weekly publication, and redirecting their focus to outdoor entertainment. This began establishing Billboard's relationship with entertainers, as they often covered carnivals, fairs, and circus shows. Billboard also attempted to cover the motion picture industry in the early 1900s, but shifted their emphasis towards music amid competition from Variety magazine. During the Great Depression, radio, jukeboxes, and phonograph records were becoming very, very popular, and their manufacturers advertised heavily with Billboard. The ever-changing technology helped focus even more of Billboard's editorials towards the music industry, and even led them to create a radio broadcasting station in the 1920s. Eventually, Billboard published its first Hit Parade chart on January 4th, 1936. Charts were compiled by surveying music retailers across the country and published weekly. By the start of the rock era in 1955, two more charts, the most played by jockeys, which was the precursor to the airplay chart, and the most played in jukeboxes that rank the most played song in jukeboxes across the country were established. Jukeboxes were very popular among the youth of the time. This was regarded as the best way to determine how the younger demographic interacted with music, since many radio stations didn't add the increasingly popular rock and roll music to their rotation. Jukeboxes would translate to streaming by today's standards. On the November 12th edition of 1955, Billboard published a top 100 list for the first time by combining the three aspects of a single's performance. Jukebox popularity was waning during these times, and Billboard would eventually drop both the jukebox and jockey charts in favor of an all-genre singles chart that would become the flagship chart, the Billboard Hot 100. So on August 4th, 1958, on the first compilation, Poor Little Fool by Ricky Nelson became the first Hot 100 #1. Billboard was not the only music industry trade magazine and faced competition from Cashbox and Record World. Founded in 1946, Record World went under the name Music Vendor. It was a weekly magazine that was considered slightly trendier than Billboard and Cashbox, especially in its early iteration by catering to younger audiences. Not too much is documented about their demise, but it ceased publication on April 10, 1982. Cashbox was also a popular trade magazine that published charts from July 1942 through its final issue in November 1996. Cashbox was founded by George Albert as a trade publication for the vending machine industry. Their name was obtained from the manner in which the machine collected coins from its box. A few years later, the magazine began covering the popular jukebox business, which during the time weighed significantly in record sales of a particular single. Cashbox would review records for jukebox vendors, and in return, the record industry would advertise their artists with the magazine. Being the major alternative to Billboard, Cashbox regionalized its chart data by placing hit songs by city, radio station, market sales, and jukebox activity. Charts were also divided by the different genres of the time. The magazine listed songs by artists that were sorted alphabetically by record label. This made it easier to track label activity on the music scene. It also featured tour news, insider gossip, and photographs that were exclusive to the magazine, with an in-depth look at singers and bands on the ascendancy, as well as those on the decline. Cashbox were largely influential in creating the bullet, an icon that represented a single's increasing progress on the chart in terms of sales and radio playtime. Record historians and some music analysts tend to believe that Cashbox represented the less affluent demographic because its charts were based on more jukebox popularity than radio. During the magazine's early history, radios were not very affordable. Many people frequented places of entertainment and interacted with a lot of jukeboxes. These places were located in inner cities, small townships, and rural communities, and unique ethnic enclaves. In this way, Cashbox is considered to represent an underdocumented communities, more so than its competitors. Cashbox's unique methodology made them a mainstay until their final issue on November 16, 1996. Cashbox was revived in 2006 with the blessings from the family of the late George Albert and exists mainly as an internet entity. The magazine does publish special print editions and features a wide array of music charts. So with the lane opening up, major changes took part during the early 90s that would change the landscape of music trade in Billboard's favor. With the burgeoning computer age and the need for more accurate figures, Billboard teamed up with information system analyst SoundScan in what would be a watershed moment in American music in 1991. Effective May 25th of that year, Billboard enacted changes to its top 200 albums chart. Prior to this revolution, Billboard had relied largely on surveys in which staff members and owners of retail outlets all over the US would report sales figures back to them. Billboard would then analyze and tabulate the results into various charts. In an era preceding the omnipresence of computers, it was the best possible method to obtain data. However, it did rely heavily on good faith. And y'all know how good faith can be. The partnership with SoundScan, which would later be acquired by Nielsen, the data information company, led to a more accurate and streamlined presentation of data. More importantly, it shed light on the fact that more hip-hop, country, metal, and alternative rock albums were being consumed than had been previously believed. The shift to computer-based analytics further supplanted Billboard atop the summit in regards to the industry acclaim, while most of its competition declined. Billboard has enhanced its reputation as the industry's go-to for music performance analysis by adapting to the ever-changing landscape. By adding different metrics such as paid downloads in 2005 and incorporating streaming from popular websites such as YouTube 2013, as well as Apple Music, Pandora, and Spotify in the following years. Billboard has kept up with music consumption pretty impressively. However, some challenges have been posed by streaming, such as how to weigh paid and free platforms, or how many streams of a single constitutes a sale, and how valuable is streaming versus radio or paid sales. As far as charts in the USA are concerned, Billboard has long provided valuable information for industry analysts and record companies, as well as regular chart geeks, DJs, and various music professionals. Safe to say, Billboard is over a century old and looks like it will be here a while longer. So, what do you guys think about Billboard's ascendancy to the industry's pinnacle as far as music analysis is concerned? Drop a comment and hit us with a like and subscribe for more videos from Pulse. Also, we'd like to send a very special shout out to YouTuber Orange83 for his fantastic channel. Please make sure to check out his channel if you're interested in learning about creative filmmaking. Thanks so much. See you guys soon.
That was really cool. Make sure you like and subscribe to her. She's got some great tips there.
Yeah, as they say on their site, your entertainment, our pleasure. Pulse Music is a new community that... What's the rest?
A new community that...
You're at
Come
the
on.
about, just scroll down. Description's right there.
Oh, yeah.
I got you.
That strives to bring you in-depth look at everything music from hip-hop to rock, from reggaeton to Afrobeat. We would love for you to join our community for a pulsating look at the most personal art form known to mankind. Totally agree with them. That's at Pulse Music 95, 96.
So those
Right
were
on.
those times. So now, like, sharing out your music and artists and things of that sort, like getting your music heard, like, where do you turn? Everybody wants to kind of like be heard, right? And noticed.
And
But
I was
go ahead.
surprised at the influence of jukeboxes. I hadn't even thought of that. Like in the beginning, jukeboxes were the gauge for like whether a song was selling.
Yeah, that was cool. What is it now? Because you
Like,
know,
And at the end,
it's
the streaming challenge is
this streaming challenge, because I'm just wondering, Tony, like, we have shared a lot of artists over the times, and I wonder how many people got like new subscribers or their YouTube channel subscriptions went up, and they gained some fans and followers like through that.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're starting to gauge on followers, subscribers, things that the platforms give for additional
Yeah, I'd love to
numbers.
see that.
I think nowadays sales are just part of the notes.
Challenge.
Here, we'll bring up the notes real quick because that's the first one that I put in there when it came to Billboard
Yeah.
album songs and sales. I think is the like criteria that they've been going with since like 1893.
Got you. It sounds like it. And it sounds like streaming is going to make it a lot harder for artists to be seen and heard.
Yeah,
That's what I
ironically,
got.
ironically, it's easier to get your stuff out there, but it's harder to get your stuff heard. Thank God they
Yeah.
got Angified now.
Shameless self-plug.
Facts.
How is she changing?
I love it.
So that was just a.
I'd love
you know,
to see the
a brief
analytics
history.
now.
Oh, and Billboard does actually give a lot of data and analytics
Yeah.
online. And one of the videos that we have, let me bring this one up.
Another one.
We're gonna look at this one throughout the evening, different at different points, because this one is really cool. This is about the data, and it shows.
That's what I wanted.
It shows the Billboard charts from 1969 till now, and how the different artists throughout those decades took their leads, and it's real interesting to watch. You'll see as we go through the decade which artists start to come up in the sales and then take over. Like Michael Jackson, the Eagles, certain artists.
What was it about their songwriting?
Well,
those are some big ones.
That's why when I added timing of release, because I think you'll start to notice a pattern there. Certain artists, it was all about timing. Like Michael Jackson was ready going into the 80s to just take over.
Okay, well, let's share that video.
So this one is
You're wrong to think we're going to start with the Beatles, as despite only just celebrating the massive success of Let It Be, the band did the unthinkable. In 1970, the best band of all time split up, and ascending the throne in their place is Creedence Clearwater Revival, who put together a strategy to completely change the game. By relentlessly releasing 6 albums in 2 years, their unique music blend of rock and country set them straight to the top, and they would have stayed there if it wasn't for the most iconic duo of all time. Even though they grew up as part of a generation that was grappling with war and civil rights disputes, Simon and Garfunkel used the nation's struggles to pour their hearts into songs like The Sound of Silence and Mrs. Robinson. And whilst the Beatles fought back to try and reclaim the crown, the duo shrugged them off, releasing hit after hit. So you would have thought they would have lasted longer at the top, but you obviously don't realize that they had to deal with a literal rocket man. It was unthinkable for Reginald Kenneth Dwight, a young man who suffered deeply of shyness and a lack of confidence, to achieve any sort of success. But once he put on the persona of Elton John and flaunted his deeply hidden charisma on the stage, he soon saw songs like Your Song and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road dominating the charts. Which is why it's a shame that Led Zeppelin had to storm in and crash the party, as even though the band had to overcome skepticism from some critics who initially dismissed them as unoriginal or overhyped, their innovative blend of blues, rock, and folk music created a unique sound never heard before and blasted them to second place. I guess you can never write off Elvis Presley, who, despite being in the twilight years of his career, saw out his life at the very top. But naturally, after passing, the world needed new royalty to bow down to, and who could be more worthy than Fleetwood Mac? The group's great struggle didn't come from external forces, but actually internal conflicts, as the band constantly argued and switched up their lineup. However, once they found the perfect recipe, not for a curry, but of band members, mind you, they discovered a revolutionary ability to constantly evolve and experiment with their sound. And with songs like Dreams, Don't Stop, and Go Your Own Way, they created one of the best-selling albums of all time, and almost fended off a challenge from the Bee Gees. But not quite. The world may have unbelievably shifted away from disco music, giving the band a musical mountain to climb, but nonetheless, they brought everything back to the dance floor. In particular, your crazy drunk uncle at your cousin's wedding singing Stayin' Alive and Night Fever. For a short while, this would keep them at the top, but Barbra Streisand couldn't possibly allow that to last for any longer. Overlooked for so many years due to her unconventional looks, she proved all of the haters was wrong with her exceptional vocal capabilities and an ability to seamlessly transition between genres and styles, leading her to maybe not be the GOAT, but potentially something bigger, a EGOT. Streisand is one of the very few entertainers to achieve the prestigious EGOT status, meaning she has won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. A truly great achievement, but not great enough to hold off the power of hard rock. A band like this had never climbed to the top of the ladder before, but AC/DC used guitar riffs, pounding drums, and distinctive vocals to introduce the world to Highway to Hell, smashing sales and launching themselves into first place. It would
Now I'm going to pause that there as we go into the 80s.
Yeah, it's a good point. Pause.
Well, you notice how the 70s went, like how Elton John just took over when he came into the picture, and the Bee Gees during the disco years. The 70s, it's not surprising to see which artists were really taking off there. The one
Yeah.
the one that you don't see at the moment, like as you see the list of ones here, you see Michael Jackson hiding down here in like sixth place, and Rolling Stones, surprisingly, were always somewheres in the middle, never taking the top charts. And guys like the Eagles are all the way down there at the bottom, just above Van Halen. But
They got
going
the
into the
OGs.
80s, things start to really change. What we'll see when we come back to this later, the 80s have some very different dynamics, especially when you get to Michael Jackson.
I think that, in my opinion, Rolling Stones, Bee Gees would be a tie of who's. I'd go by dates.
Well, keep in mind, this is about record sales. Like,
Yeah.
they're gauging this based on albums.
Oh, how much sales? Okay, so I can't really see the full map in this screen. Let me see if I can pull it up full screen and get the full map.
So what I'm seeing here is a time of like changes where things, you know,
Yeah, I
you
can't see the
back
full map.
with Rush and Van Halen, you know, you had the war, you had the times and things getting back to normal into the 80s where people started feeling free to be able to create, you know, and a
Yeah.
lot of those beginning songs that you were talking about, because of the times of things that were happening around the world, things were created. And when it really hit home with people, that's what connected them. And that's, you know, was their release of art around the world. And
And
yeah,
with that timing,
their magic sprinkle.
by coming out with a song that's relevant to the time, like the war, you know, the Vietnam War had a lot of people up in arms, and the music during that time reflected that. Same with like civil rights in the 60s. A lot of the 60s music was going off of the culture and society at that time.
Yes.
So if you do want to write a hit song, you got to tune into what's going on around you at that time.
The era. The general era.
History in the making.
Yeah.
That's what you are. All right, what else we got? So
Well, we've got some
we gotta
more
go to the notes, right? Or
we've
no?
got some more from Billboard, and
Okay.
I might end up updating these notes with some of the ones that Billboard explains to us. This next one is Billboard explains. What did they explain? This one that I have, record labels. Yes, Billboard explains record labels. You know, what a record label is, especially nowadays, the times are changing again. We see more independent artists, and the purpose of a record label these days is starting to change.
All right, where's the video at?
I'm glad
man.
I'm BU, Be Heard, Be Original, not Be Billboard.
And Billboard is a little controversial when it comes to a lot of people feel like, you know,
Get cheated.
the numbers don't match up, and it's a popularity contest amongst the record labels, and doesn't always reflect what they feel is the best songs out there. Same with like the
Okay.
musical Hall of Fame.
Go Giants. All right, sorry, go ahead.
So this one is Billboard Explains
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
record,
ooh, ooh. It
record
says,
label.
did you know, Tony? It says, did you know?
I didn't know until I found it. I think this is the right one.
Did you know that Republic Records was Billboard's top record label of 2022?
I also really love my record label.
Record labels have been around for decades, and for a long time, being signed to one meant an artist had made it in the music industry. But what does a record label actually do? Who are the teams behind the label? How do they make a profit? And how are they evolving with the changing times? This is Billboard Explains Record Labels. Record labels have been around since the early 20th century, and since then they have evolved quite a bit. But what is a record label? They are companies that work to sell the brand of the artist and the work that they produce.
We've had record labels forever, as long as we've had music, essentially. There's always been some sort of company that's been in charge of making sure that music gets out there to the public. What they do and how they do it has changed greatly.
There are two types of music labels: major labels, which are organized into umbrella companies called label groups, and independent labels. The three major labels in the music industry today are Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, aka the Big Three. The major labels are made up of individual major label subsidiaries, such as Capitol and Republic under Universal, Warner and Atlantic under Warner Music Group, and Columbia and RCA under Sony. Independent labels or indie labels differ from major labels as they operate on their own independent funding. They're typically much smaller, both in staff and in roster, and tend to take a more tailored approach to dealing with their artists. They also can outsource distribution and publishing, while major labels handle those tasks internally.
The benefits between major and indie labels, it kind of comes down to personal preference. An indie label can be much more of a boutique situation. It can be sometimes more tailored and more catered to an artist and what they're trying to do.
All record labels maintain terms such as the A&R department, which is responsible for seeking out new talent to bring on board and helping with creative. The marketing department, which leads the promotional and awareness campaigns for artists. The promotions team, which focuses on pitching songs to radio stations and playlists on streaming services, and many more.
When you think about a record label now, it's really important to focus on the fact that they have massive marketing and publicity muscle. They are the ones who are able to put a billboard up in Los Angeles. They are the ones who can get you certain placements on streaming services.
Now let's dive into how record labels can make a profit. Labels typically make money on the master recording one of three ways: through music sales, downloading or streaming the work of their artists, brand partnerships when an artist endorses a product, and master licensing, using the exact recording of a song for a commercial, movie, or video game. Outside of those three avenues, labels can also make money off of touring, merchandising, and other opportunities based on the deals they've signed with artists. An example is a 360 deal, which allows a label to get a cut of whatever earnings the artist makes, even ones that are not related to their recordings. It's no secret that the music industry has changed in the age of the internet and social media, with TikTok trends now influencing the charts and YouTube and SoundCloud being avenues to discover new talent. Labels have needed to keep up. A&Rs are now scrolling social media for talent instead of attending showcases, and marketing plans are now built around TikTok.
There was a time when record labels were the only way that anyone could actually get their music out to the public. They controlled all of the marketing and distribution of getting your music into stores. Today, that's greatly different because you have the internet.
Things like TikTok have changed things in a lot of different ways, both with artists being able to build a following themselves, but also with how record labels look for talent. It's changed things really faster than ever in the history of record labels, I believe.
While some may say that you don't need a record label to make it big, there's no denying that labels provide structure and support to an artist that is hard to come by independently. And no matter how much the music industry evolves, there will always be record labels.
Whoa. Lots of cool stuff. And Angified Presents provides a lot of that stuff.
And I added record labels to the notes.
Okay.
Because
And
apparently it is important.
Well, obviously, because they do a lot of the advertising and promotions. Yeah.
Yeah, see, and that was actually more important in the old days where, print advertising and the cost of all that, you kind of needed the record label to take care of that stuff. Now you're starting to see with the independents, some of the big record labels actually want their artists to do their own promoting socially and create their own image online.
Correct. Well, if anybody ever needs help, you know where we're at.
That is kind of where we are coming from these days.
Mm-hmm.
You become the new radio, become the new outlet. Technically, you're a jukebox in a ball.
Wow, how cool. What,
Play me Elvis. I'll put the coin in. Let's go.
Elvis. He definitely made a statement in his time.
Now you
What
got a
was
couple
your
of
favorite song he wrote?
Love Me's Tender.
Oh, you're a sap.
Hound Dog. If I was gonna pick one,
I have to
Hound
second
Dog.
that one. That one gets stuck.
And it was rock, like before rock was really big. It was good old-fashioned rock.
Mm-hmm. So what else we got, huh?
So we've also got some tips from other YouTubers as I was going through these.
Yeah.
I hunted for some good tips from some of the channels that are out there, and one thing that I noticed when it comes to searching for how to write a hit song when you search YouTube, you have different camps of thinking. Some of them treat it like a science, and they swear by like, this is the science of making a hit song.
Correct.
And others treat it kind of like a recipe.
Well, it is. It's a story, to be honest.
Yeah, the songwriting process in itself is a story.
As long as you're not a lazy writer.
Oh, and they mention that in some of the books that you have, huh? You got a couple of songwriting books there.
Oh, yeah, I'll share my books in a little while. Now I want to know why my brain gets hooked on hit songs.
And then a little bit of some words in between, and that makes the hook.
Well, hook
Is that
is
what your definition is?
Hook is something that you're going to hear mentioned. A lot of them are going to say, like, the hook is the reason why this song was a hit. And sometimes that's true. But that's also when you find the one-hit wonders a lot of times. Sometimes you'll have a song that is real hooky, but the band doesn't have a bunch of songs like that. They happen to have one.
Yeah.
And they manage to sell an album off that one song, but they have a hard time backing it up.
Billie Jean.
More.
Billie Jean was perfectly written. It gets you started with the cack, and then he tell you a little story. Then it builds you up. Then it goes up, and then it hits you. Billie Jean. And it goes over and
well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It hits you.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and hit play?
Oh, I'm going to add that, Ange, to the notes. So this one
Kevin
comes...
Pendleton, write that down.
Yeah, I've been taking a cue from Kevin tonight. This one comes from a Big Think at Big Think on YouTube. Cool channel. More of a science channel, but you know they happen to talk about music as well. These are my favorite kinds. And with this one, he talks about the science of music, why your brain gets hooked on a hit song. So those hooks are probably going to be part of this science.
Well, let's check out those hooks.
One of the questions that I set out to answer in the book is, why do we like what we like in music? What makes music catchy? Where do earworms come from? And to answer this really complex question, I started with the simplest possible question, which is, what is music? Why does the brain process some sounds as cacophony and other sounds very clearly as song? And to start to answer this question, you have to go to Diana Deutsch. And she is a musicologist at the University of California, San Diego. And Diana was listening to herself talk at her house one evening, and she put a sentence of hers on repeat. And she realized that if you take a bit of speech stream and you take a sliver of it and you start repeating it again, start repeating it again, start repeating it again, start repeating it again, start repeat. Obviously, you can sort of hear it if you're listening, that the brain suddenly starts to hear a melody in this repetition and a rhythm and a beat, and it starts to hear that which was formerly just speech as song. And so what she would say, what I would say, is that repetition is the God particle of music. It is the thing that distinguishes the cacophony of the world from that which we cannot help but recognize as music. So that's interesting, but it's not an answer to the fundamental question, which is what makes music catchy? Because if I go into a music studio and I say, start repeating it again, I'll be laughed out of the studio immediately. So there has to be repetition and variety. What is the scientific way to think about the balance? And to answer that question, you have to fly northeast from San Diego to Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, where David Huron did this famous study involving mice, where he played a note for a mouse. Let's call it a B note. And the mouse would turn its head like this. And he'd play B again, and the mouse would turn its head. And he'd play B, 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 and the mouse's head is just, doing this thing. And eventually the mouse habituates. It learns to ignore the stimulus. And habituation is common in culture and life. We learn to ignore things that are too familiar. But if instead, at that very moment, the mouse is about to habituate from the B note, he instead plays a C note, the mouse attends to the C note and is dishabituated from the B note, right? So now he can go back to scaring the mouse with the B note. And it turns out that if you want to scare a mouse for the longest period of time with the fewest number of notes, there's a very specific pattern that you play. And it goes BBC, BC, D note to habituate from both the B and the C note. And as I was reading this study and talking to David, I thought, well, if you take the letter B and you replace it with the word verse, and you take the letter C and you replace it with the word chorus, and you take the letter D and you replace it with the word bridge, you have the following song structure: verse, chorus, bridge, which is essentially the most common pop song structure of the 20th century. So what seems so fundamentally interesting to me about this idea is that the same formulaic relationship between repetition and variety that can scare a mouse in a laboratory setting also makes us attend to top 40 radio in cars. But throughout the book, I'm constantly thinking about what are the most important implications of each of these ideas, not only for entertainment, which is interesting but maybe not important, but also for something like politics. And it's interesting when thinking about repetition and speech and persuasiveness and realizing that every great rhetorical device is essentially a form of repetition. There's anaphora, which is repetition at the beginning of a sentence. Winston Churchill, we shall fight them in the landing fields, we shall fight them on the air. You have tricolon, which is repetition in triplicate. Abraham Lincoln, government of the people, by the people, for the people. There is a lilt to repetition in human speech. But most impressively, and maybe most utilized, is this thing called antimetaboly. And that's impossible to remember or spell or pronounce. So think of antimetaboly as ABBA, A-B-B-A. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. A-B-B-A. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Or Hillary Clinton, human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. A-B-B-A, antimetaboly. And what I think is so interesting about antimetaboly is that it is the most used rhetorical device, I think, because it is just musical enough to disguise the fact that it is essentially song, that it is essentially turning human speech into that which the brain wants to process as fluent music. And so sometimes we hear both great ideas and terrible ideas as antimetaboly, and the brain wants them to be true, and so we like them before we even know to think about them.
That is a cool channel. We learned a new word.
All I got to say is antimetaboly.
I wanted to hear you say it. I was going to say, I thought he said angiometaboly.
Yeah, I thought it was angiometaboly at first too, but
Like,
then
oh, that explains so much.
yes, the repetition of writing.
Yes, I wrote it down. Structure, repetition, and arrangement.
You know, it's funny, Tony, because you actually watched me do that to one of my songwritings.
Oh, I see you do it all the time in your songs.
Well, I think it was just the song I was so determined to finish in one day. I was so determined I had to write this in one day. And I really struggled with it, like, how do I want to word this? I don't want to rhyme too much, repetition and rhyming is cool, but you can only use it so much, especially in telling stories and messages and trying to paint those pictures on those canvases. And I sat back and I looked at it. And at one point I remember saying to Tony, dude, I am so stupid. I could just simply do it like this, which kind of put the repetition in it, but still gave it its own frequency of writing, so everything was still structured. And what, as far as the BCCBA, instead of using that, I tend to just use V for verse, C for chorus, and B for bridge. If I want to go ahead and say I am writing down a bunch of ideas and say, this looks like it could be a good verse, or this could look, and maybe I'll take some of those parts from another piece and add it to a different piece later on. However, the structure in it will always be the same on that. And I will even make a backward send sign, for a new paragraph thing, just to kind of keep myself organized, to help myself. Well, maybe I'll keep this for a second verse. Maybe this is going to move to, being a bridge in the end. But it kind of keeps you, structured and writing it so and it helps set the rhythm, honestly. It helps set your structure of what chords and where you want to put the changes. Because they said it at very first, it starts out as a writing and then just forms into something you hear musically.
Yeah, and I've seen you use repetition, strategically in different ways. Sometimes it's repeating a word or a phrase to get that da 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 da, and other times it's that chorus that has to come back in every so often. The whole A B approach is just making sure that there's certain themes.
Words and vowels are awesome.
But I'm just saying, instead of using ABAC, because I would mistake those on my paper for chords. So, okay, if I'm writing and I'm writing my chord changes on my paper of where I want my melody to go. Okay, and like you said, simple chord changes. That's all you need, a simple structure. You can build anything from there, but start simple, You start with blueprints before you actually start building something.
And didn't you find it fascinating that mice react that way to certain notes? I was like, whoa.
I know, it almost made me want to buy well, actually, yeah, buy a mouse and just use it for musical purposes. I wonder if like mice and rats respond the same on that, or if it would be different.
Well,
They're very close,
I
but
wonder what their issue with B is. B's an
I know
awesome note.
like, well, no, it's not that. It's actually one of those notes that catches somebody off guard. So what he was saying there wasn't that it was something bad. It's something that it's unexpected. So while the listener is going ahead and listening to songs on the radio, okay, you're hearing song after song after song after song. Now, if there is a song that plays a note that is not what the listener expected, it's almost like, oops, red light, okay, stop sign. It's, wait, hold up, okay? It's catching that attention because it's throwing the listener off total balance of what they're used to hearing. So he wasn't saying that that was bad. I love the B7.
And actually, you just reminded me of something. Repetition also matters in like radio play, because the songs that were the hits, the radio would play them like every hour. So there's a better chance of a song becoming a hit if the radio stations are like, we're gonna play that song every hour.
That's right.
Yeah, there is some science behind that. And actually that kind of leads into this next one.
Did I do that? Sorry.
You're good at that. This one is about what do Billboard hit songs have in common? What is something that all the hit songs have in common with each other?
Find out.
Yeah, this one comes from Soundfield at Soundfield PBS on YouTube. Oh, I wonder if it's one of the PBS. It is. Gotta be some good shit.
Public Broadcasting System. Give it up.
Yeah, they still are giving us knowledge. So let's see what these Billboard hit songs have in common.
Okay.
Over the last 2.5 years, 89 songs have made their way into the top 5 slots of the Billboard Hot 100 charts. For this episode, the team at Soundfield cracked open every one of these songs to identify certain trends that are common in music right now. What are chart-topping artists doing today versus in the past? These days, if you want to top the charts, it's better to use the sad, mysterious tones of the minor keys and modes rather than the more regular major keys that have historically been used at the top of the charts. From this graph, we can see that of all the tonalities used, harmonic minor and natural minor, as well as the minor modes of Dorian and Phrygian, outdid the appearance of major keys and the Lydian mode by almost double. This is uncommon for pretty much any other era of Western popular music. Even more surprising is the rise of the Phrygian mode in modern pop hits. 7% of the songs used it. And while that's not a huge number itself, it becomes gigantic when you consider that the overall usage of Phrygian across all popular music ever is well south of 1%.
In lyric writing, or any kind of writing or poetry, a trochee is when a stressed syllable is followed by an unstressed syllable. So like trochee, Mona Lisa, or bad and bougie. These trochees are in contrast to the more common cousins iambic phrases like I'm bad at love, she walks in beauty like the night, or Havana ooh na na. What we're hearing all over the pop charts these days is that trochees are often being sped up, double timed. So what was 2/8 notes before becomes 2/16 notes followed by a rest. We call these rapid trochees, and they sound like this.
Ain't no stopping, album dropping. Do my back like I do these records, walking past the mirror. Ooh, I'm the hottest in the street. Banging body, spicy mommy, hot tamale.
Actually, maybe we should just call these Cardi trochees, because the last 4 examples were of Cardi B using them. Shout out to Adam Neely's video on Scotch Snaps, where he digs into this more.
Teenage, mutant, ninja, turtles.
So what does the Billboard Hot 100 have against guitars these days? Well, let's first mention that two of the most common keys that guitarists have traditionally written songs in are E and A major. Now let's look at what's going on in today's charts. Here we can see that while A and E have healthy showings for minor keys, not one song to top the charts was written in A or E major.
Now let's take a look at the tempos that chart toppers have been using lately. Okay, so we have a small spike from 67 to 70 BPM, but the real story here is this big gap from 109 to 118 BPM, with Just Lil Baby and Gunna's Drip Too Hard sitting here at 112 like they didn't get the memo. But seriously, this is not typical. The most common tempo in the Rolling Stone Greatest 500 Songs of All Time was 112 BPM. I guess modern pop listeners just don't respect these tempos anymore. Maybe they went out of style.
One thing that still hasn't gone out of style in pop music is the predominant use of the major key triads. Major 1, 4, 5, and minor 6. These chords still dominate the harmony in a lot of songs. In fact, 28% of the songs in major keys only use these chords.
In a very general sense, pop songs have evolved from having one repeated section to two sections to having three sections, often organized as verses, choruses, and a bridge. As songs kept evolving, we started to see more interlude sections enter the mix, such as repeated intros, instrumental solos, and pre-choruses. And finally, the post-chorus is now becoming pretty common. But where a pre-chorus warms up the stage, a post-chorus cools things off before the song returns, usually to a verse, but sometimes a bridge or another section. Songs with post-choruses include
I'm sorry to report that the modern pop song still has a long way to go on the gender parity front. Let's take a look. So not only were there twice as many male solo tracks as there were solo female tracks, but only 8% of tracks had no male vocalists at all. Traditionally, both Western classical music and pop have really liked this home and away interplay, almost always beginning and ending on clear-cut home chords. But it's really becoming less and less important as the years go by. And this shows up all over on today's charts. Take the loop from Drake's hit Nice for What. It's based off of a loop he got from Lauryn Hill's song X Factor. Here are the chords in the sample: E flat major, D flat major 7, D flat major, and F minor. So the thing about this is that there is a lack of reinforcement in the bass. There aren't any cadences really, and also there aren't dominant chords. These are all things that would indicate a key center for us. For example, if we're in the key of A flat major, these chords might lead back to the tonic, back to home bass. We don't have those signs, we just have are we in F natural minor or Aeolian? Are we in D flat? D flat Lydian? So it's really hard to say. Towards the middle of the song, we do hear in the bass a little bit. But still, it's not providing a strong key center for us.
Dean, can you introduce yourself so people know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Dean Olivet. I just statistify music, I'm a trend spotter, I suppose.
As far as tonal ambiguity, I feel like the tonal ambiguity, it be happening on accident a lot of times. Or it's like, it's not an intentional, a compositional decision that's being made.
Well, yeah, just trying to find what sounds good to you rather than what you've been trained to do.
You think about Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. And they just do it an octave higher. But it's like, that became a massive hit.
What makes sense to me is to use the analogy of people trying out different clothes. People are more experimental with everything from color
to the shape of things, and I think that's what happens with music too.
It's like back in the day, like you had like functional clothes. Like, okay, I'm going to school, I'm going to wear my school clothes. It does have a function. I'm going to wear my work clothes. I'm sleeping, I'm wearing my pajamas, you know? Clothes ambiguity is like, what if I just wear my pajamas to work or what, you know? And that's parallel with music. Functionality isn't as important as it used to be.
Hype lyrics and ad-libs are nothing new to pop music, but never before have they been so prevalent across the top of the charts.
We out in these streets. We go back, remember crisscross and hopscotch. You what I like, that's what we like.
And if you can't think of what to say, just ad-lib yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of A's. Everything we've discovered is just a trend, a modern rule. So now that you know the rules of modern pop, you can break them. So as far as creating the Billboard tune, every tune, top 5 tune in the Billboard has got lyrics on it. And we've only had lyrics on a couple of Soundfield tunes, but this one is one that we just can't get around. Like, we gotta have some lyrics.
A minute or two, don't wanna waste my time with you.
What's your background, Christina?
I do a lot of like soul influence singer-songwriter stuff.
Dope.
We're in good hands. the LA, the beats, they have this, it's kind of round.
Nare, your words are like, you're spot on today.
Scoops up, but so
It's like, okay, round and scooping.
round and scoopy.
Ice cream.
But hard.
Really good ice cream.
Ice cream.
One thing for this, I would think percussive. I would think rhythmic, choppy, percussive words. You say, not necessarily rapping, you know what I'm saying? But like Billie Eilish.
No pressure. We're just trying to live up to a multi-million-dollar budget track.
No one I gotta go back to. For the night it's just me and you. So baby, take my hand, I'll show you my land, and we can taste this passion fruit. All night, get we're told. Bad girls on the road. We don't take it slow. I get what's mine, you take what's yours. You don't gotta tell me twice, I know you can make it right. Oh yeah, you electrify, baby, you just blow my mind. You don't gotta tell me twice, I know you can make it right, baby, you'll just blow my mind.
PBS Digital Studios wants to hear from you. We do a survey every year that asks about what you're into, your favorite PBS shows, and things you'd like to see more from PBS Digital Studios. Soundfield. You can even vote on potential new shows.
All of this helps us make more of the stuff you want to see. The survey takes about 10 minutes, and you might even win a sweet t-shirt. The link is in the description, and thank you in advance.
Oh, I like this channel, YouTube at Soundfield PBS. All about exploring the music theory. And that was Nari Soul, one of our favorite channels over here.
Well, I have to tell you, when it comes to structure and lyrics, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and what'd you think of that ad lib that he was talking about towards the end there? Because I know you do that with words all the time.
I don't know what you're talking about. I do it all the time, so I actually just completely connected with it. So I didn't actually think anything different of it because I completely connected with it. The only thing I can't stand is like when somebody can't think of something to throw in, they, instead of going forward in it, they do repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And unless like you're hip hop, right? You know what I mean? Naughty by nature or something. I mean, sometimes it just don't work.
Well, and the kind of approach that he's talking about there, that's not just a hip hop thing. I mean,
Oh
Metallica.
no, pop.
Metallica has like
He was talking.
400 yeahs across all their songs.
They're talking about pop mostly, um, and I have to tell you, if I'm listening to a song and the very beginning of it is "Hey" or "A" or "Yeah" or what, okay, like I am really hesitant to go any further because I'm like, okay, is this song going to have any type of like meaning? Is this song a thought out process, or was it somebody just heard it beat and was like, "Yo, I'm just gonna throw down"? Because I mean, I've done both. SR, come on, you talk about writing and going freestyle or regular because you do the same. You do both.
Yeah. I write what fits with the beats, the balance of the song. Like I kind of think about like the old ball that bounces with the sing along words in those old videos, and
I like that
follow
visual.
the scale if it's in the key, and if my thing says do 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 do, So blues is a really good one because blues is really flowful, but there's some rules. Jazz.
Nuh-uh. You didn't hear what she said. She said, "Now you know the rules. Now
Which
you
means
can
you can
break
break
them."
Yeah.
Okay, there are no rules. When a lot of times when I write, I literally will write something and I'll try it to 1,000 different type of beats and melodies. Will I record them to 1,000 beats and melodies? No. Should I? Yes. Because sometimes, like the thing that you thought was like the worst take in the fucking world actually turns out to be like the best.
Yeah, happy surprises.
It also is to where maybe you could find that hook you were missing.
Yeah.
And James was mentioning his thoughts on after the last one about strategic use of chromatic notes and modes, which what they were talking about there on which keys were hits, like in the 70s, the E and the A versus now, it's no big surprise that like certain modes eventually, if they're all used up like E and A were through the 70s and 80s, not a big surprise that the hits in the last 20 years have not been in those keys. Eventually, musicians go somewhere different. The Phrygian mode.
Everybody loves minor keys now, huh? Nobody says I want to be a major. Yeah, adulthood sucks.
Oh,
Sorry.
James, that's why we can't hear you. I don't think your mic's working.
Ah.
I see a light.
I saw a finger.
I don't hear a James though.
I see a guitar. He'll get there. Okay. Well,
But
maybe he won't get there.
on that last one at Soundfield PBS, check out that. There you go.
Check. Test.
You're
Looks
good.
like it's working now.
That's why it's IT.
Shh. You owe me a beer.
So, yeah, I was just gonna say, if you want to tastefully use chromatic notes, you want to do it between notes in your scale. So, like, I like to use them when I have like a nice little stretch, like a minor third distance, and you just like you can walk down in any pattern from like the higher note of the minor third down to the lower note. Just put notes in between there, but you want to resolve on one of the notes that are actually in your scale. So you
Well,
could walk
yes.
up too.
Well, now. That is where that B comes back in, Tony. Do you see?
The B?
The B? See, where James is saying you want to stay in there. When you throw a note in there, that is completely different, or a bridge, a building up that is completely into a different direction, but still, still very cohesive. Okay, it still meshes well. When you go ahead and you do that, it gives it a it gives it a head turn, an ear say, what? Let me listen to that again. Or is this going to happen again? Because that was a really cool change.
Yeah, and
It's
with
kind of like, and Tony, we've seen a lot of artists that have tried to mix a lot of different genres over the past couple of years. A song that'll start out in jazz, and then somewhere it turns into rock, and then somewhere they're rapping on that, you know what I mean? And then it comes back or goes into something completely, unimaginable, like just beautiful pieces of work. So
Yeah, and how you fill the notes in between, in the case of what James is talking about there, with guitarists, it's about the rises and the falls in the riffing and the scales. So as long as you are hitting the right notes in between, you can really make it sound cool in the right guitar modes.
okay, but the same is not the same for bass. Sometimes playing against the music is actually the way to go. Just saying. But
well, bass, a lot of times you want that contrary motion.
Yeah.
And
your bassist a good
Yeah.
bassist?
Yeah.
That may be some of the things they might be mentioning in these next couple, because this channel really liked what I've seen, holistic songwriting. How's that for a cool channel? And
oh yeah, spiritualism.
yeah, well, and we always say like music is medicine, and
It is.
this kind of takes it to that level.
It does.
Yeah, it's over at holistic-songwriting on YouTube. And what he's going to talk about here is, again, some of these guys might be like, you got to do this for every song to make it a hit song. We'll see what he suggests, but he's going to suggest, do this for every song you write that you want to be a hit.
But that's just his rule. Look at that bike behind him. Sorry, my bad. All right, let's go ahead. Let's see how we do this.
So, holistic songwriting.
Beginning, writing a song can feel overwhelming. When you have thousands of options, making decisions becomes harder and harder. So in this episode, we look at some things we can accept as a given for our writing. So strap on your thinking caps and take off your shoes. You shouldn't wear those in the house anyways. And let's talk about structuring a pop song. Welcome back to the Hit Song Architect, where we gather a deeper understanding of how pop songs work and how to write them. Let's start this episode off with a little quiz. What's the typical structure of a pop song? Is it A, intro, verse, pre-chorus, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, chorus? Yes, it is. This is not a quiz show. For your first 100 songs, just use this structure. Don't make things too complicated for yourself. Everything else is already complicated enough. This here works. Don't fix what ain't broken. Nobody cares about structure. Think of your 10 favorite songs. Are they any different from this? Probably not, so just stick with it for now. That's one last thing you'll have to worry about. Also, using this structure means you only need to write 3 different sections: verse, chorus, and bridge. The rest is merely repetition. So instead of having to write 3 minutes of original music, now you just have to write half of that. Next question. How long should each of these sections be? Believe it or not, there's a correct answer for this as well. Once you're comfortable writing songs, you can stray from these, but for now, here's your formula. Intro, 4 bars. Verse 1, 16 bars. Pre-chorus, 4 bars. Chorus 1, 8 bars. Verse 2, 8 bars. Pre-chorus, 4 bars. Chorus 2, 8 bars. Bridge, 8 bars. Chorus 3, 8 bars. So if you're already working in a DAW, making a template with markers for the different sections is a good way to start. I've included a session for Logic Pro X that you can download in the description for free. If you've already written some songs, I also like to recommend my book, The Addiction Formula, which shows you the formulas to build your own structures and to maximize their effectiveness through energy management. Let's talk about that in a simplified version for now. The overall message is make your choruses big and keep your verses small. The bigger the difference, the bigger the impact when the chorus hits. But what does big and small mean in this context? Well, for now, let's stick to 3 parameters, which will help you control your energy. These are the most important, but you'll find a list of over 300 more in the Addiction Formula. Before we get into it, one more thing, and this is something to put on a post-it. Put this in a place where you'll see it when you write. If you want your chorus to sound big, don't make it bigger, make what comes before it smaller. I'll say that again because this sounds obvious, but from reviewing hundreds of songs that songwriters like you have sent in, I can tell you it's not. If you want your chorus to sound big, don't make it bigger, make what comes before it smaller. It is always better to take stuff out of the verse instead of adding another layer to the chorus. Okay? Good. Now let's move on to those 3 parameters I told you about. Number 1, dynamics and arrangement. Make your choruses louder, for example by adding a new instrument, or make your verses softer by taking out an instrument. Number 2, pitch. Let your singer sing higher in the chorus and lower in the verses. Number 3, lyrics. In the verses, it's okay to have a little more text, but in the chorus, limit yourself to very few words. For now, try to use no more than 5 or 6 that perfectly summarize what your song is about. We'll talk much more about this in a future episode, but for now, this will do. Also, for a beginner, I always recommend to start writing for a rock band setup. Drums, bass, guitar/keyboards, and vocals. You don't have to record real instruments, you can also use samples or synthesizer versions of all of these. But this is a great instrumentation to start with because it limits you to 4 parts, and limitations are good. Even for a professional, it's infinitely harder to write just a handful of great parts than it is to write 50 parts that are so-so. It's easy to hide behind overwhelm. Instead, focus on the opposite. Think about it like designing the Apple logo. Very few elements, but those elements come together beautifully. Next question. When should the different instruments come in? Yes, that is an important question. Most beginners and too many professionals I know let all of the instruments play all of the time. Instead, carefully plan when to add what, and the instrument will have more impact on the listener and keeps the song engaging. King of Songwriting Max Martin has talked about this in interviews as well. You add one element at a time. Don't overwhelm your audience. What's the formula for this, you ask? For a standard pop song, begin with just guitar or keyboard. In the verse, when the vocals start, add a pinch of drums and bass, maybe just a 4-on-the-floor beat and whole notes on the bass. In the chorus, distort the guitar or use a bigger sound on the keyboard. Let the drums play on the crash and add a snare on 2 and 4. For the second verse, let the drums play on the hi-hat and snare, otherwise go back to the arrangement of the first verse. Your second and third chorus will be like your first chorus, so all that remains is the bridge. Here, let the drums play on the ride and switch up the chord progression. We're going to go much deeper into all of this in future episodes, but for now, if you'd like to download 3 more arranging blueprints, you can do that right here. Thanks for tuning in. This is Freedom of Fantastic Realistic Songwriting. Keep writing and stay gefährlich.
Definitely keep writing.
Oh shit, that was some good advice.
It was. However, I like the part about how you make it softer before you go into the chorus. Because obviously your chorus is what you want to stick out. It's what your driving home message is.
And
right?
I like his suggestion of rather than trying to add more to the chorus to get that impact, consider removing a little bit from the verse that builds up to it. That makes the chorus feel like it comes in with more, without actually having to add extra layers.
Mm-hmm. What you got, SR?
I think he had some good points. I don't think there's really any particular rules, but it kind of sort of is. Like, you can't just wildly make stuff. I mean, but
Well, what did you think of his suggestion on song arrangement? Intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus.
Like a rock band, do it like a rock
What he
band.
suggested there.
I think he's suggesting a very
Can I
pop
take this
music
one?
song formula.
Well, he is, but again, their rules are made to be broken. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I go ahead and I write a song and say I have 6 lines per my verse, okay? Each one of my verses better contain 6 lines. My chorus may only have 4. Less is best, right? And when you end in that first verse, it's got to be something that is going to snag, or I don't want to say the word hook again. I feel like I've got to be like Angie's Playhouse here on talking IT. But you know when you write a song, a lot of times the way that you write the song, as long as you're not lazy writing, all of that structure will fall out. And just because you write a song that way doesn't mean you can't use any tempo, rhythm, or beat with it.
Yeah.
Well, and you notice in his structure, he doubled the chorus towards the end twice.
A lot of songs do that. They either double it or what they call cap it, which means just take that line, or and that the line should definitely have something to do with the title of the song, to also help your listener to know what the name of the song is. I don't know how many times growing up you listen to the radio and you're like, what is the name of this song? And you had to wait for the chorus to come in to actually get that. So a cap at the end is just taking that one line or that one word and repeating it over to end.
Yeah, and with that structure approach he had, it was perfect for like those old school rock songs that had a solo at the end right before the final double chorus. That's where you would
Right.
pop the solos in.
Oh, she dropped.
So we popped her.
Well,
But
what else do
see,
we have?
I generally agree with his advice almost completely, and with his suggested song structure. It is a good place to start before you go trying to write the next Stairway to Heaven, which does not follow that kind of structure. Write a song that does have that kind of structure before you try doing something where there is no
Right.
standard format.
Keep it simple first.
Yeah. Eventually, you'll think out the box, and you might have a song where there is no defined verse or chorus.
Right. You can always go back and
Welcome
jazz
back.
it up
Oh,
later.
I
That's
love those.
what I do. So,
There's a lot of songs, and you don't hear them very often. A lot
well,
of that was the 70s song structure,
Yeah.
where all it was a story. There was no bridge, there was no chorus to hook you in. It was a story that captivated you.
And you get that a lot with like folk, certain
I'm
songs
guilty.
where I know.
I guess sometimes I'll actually sit there and like plan it out more methodically, like as I go, Like how can I more strategically transition and transition to the different parts of my songs. Like
But
from
now
verse
if I
to
came
verse,
to you and I said, listen, we're going to do simple chords. Okay? We're going to do C, G, and F. Okay? 3 simple chords here. The whole song is 3 simple chords.
the whole
So,
song.
the whole song.
I
So
would
for
get
the
very bored of
verses,
that
you're gonna
song.
bounce. You're gonna bounce back and forth. Say my song is 6 lines. Okay. So all of my lines are gonna look different. Are gonna look identical to each other with those note changes until that last line. So I may go C G C G C G C G, but then before I jump into that chorus, I'm hitting
Yeah.
F. Then I might float over to like an A minor. Okay, something to change up the listener's ear. Okay, so
Okay.
it is a very simple song structure. So now if you have that to work with, your endless possibilities on what rhythm to play it to, whether it's pop, whether it's rock, whether it's metal, whether it's country, whether it's folk, whether it's indie, whatever. I don't care what genre rhythm you want to put behind it. Those are the solid notes. Those are the solid structure. Whatever kind of percussions you want to add, you can change it all you want. But there is a solid structure.
Well, and like he mentioned in that video, once you have your 3 parts, you know, your verse, your chorus, and your bridge, once you have those 3 parts, you half the writing is already done. Now it's just arranging them.
If you choose to do so.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. Are you talking about like borrowed chords or?
No,
Sometimes.
different chord.
What Ange was just mentioning there, going from like say C major for one part to A minor for another part changes the mood. You know, a minor progression is going to have a different mood than the major progression, and in the same song, it gives a mood swing.
And not only that, ending the verse on a different note that you ended the story, which is your verse, right? Is your story. When you're telling the chorus, that's that emphasis you're taking there. That should have something to do with your title. Just you saying, I think so.
Now, would you say it's better to use the major on the chorus and the minor on the verse?
It's completely up to you.
Reverse?
That's completely your call. It depends on what your story and what your story's about. It depends on what your writing's about.
See, I would venture to say
Because
that
maybe
minor
you could
works.
start out with a dreary day. Okay? And so maybe your story starts really, really like sad. But then like throughout your story, towards that end of that verse, you're turning your story around now. And so by the time you hit the chorus, it's a positive major emphasis.
It becomes a feel-good song.
It becomes
by the
a
time it hits the
bigger,
chorus.
like he was saying in that video, a bigger part. I hope I like explained that okay.
Yeah, I would bet if you looked, you'll see a big chunk of those hit songs are like doing minor on their verses and major on their choruses, because it is a successful recipe. Like the feel good chorus after, you know, a little bit of sadness. People want emotion in their music, but at the same time, they don't always want to feel down. So a song that kind of hits you, but then makes you feel better with the right major progression goes a long way. It makes the listener feel like they actually feel better.
Oh yeah.
Now this next one, Ange.
Unless they don't want somebody to feel better. Unless it is a story that you're not made to feel better, you're just made to think.
Well, yeah, some songs are meant to be sad. The breakup songs. I mean, the breakup songs aren't typically trying to make you feel better. They're trying to bring you into the sadness.
All right, here. Who here wants to hear a breakup song? Who here wants to hear a positive, happy song? Yay! Who here wants to just like fucking forget about things and just get into like, dude, this is everyday life and it could be worse. Right?
I want to write them all.
I know, you never know. I did write a song about cheese already, like going to the grocery store to get cheese. I wrapped my entire grocery list one time, which was a lot of fun. You never know.
I heard her sing about cooking chicken. Chicken has been cooked in a song.
Dishes have been washed. Yes.
Now, this next one is going to talk about something that we have mentioned before, the length of your song. You know, when it comes to commercial hits, it's almost always been a rule that, like, you got to shoot for, like, the 3.5 minute mark.
I don't know. I think, like, the 3-minute mark is a good thing to, like, go for. But I know a lot of hit songs back in the day, they were actually shorter than that. And that could have been due to advertising. and some of these record labels that we're buying with the independent and not. But yeah, I'm gonna say again, 50s was maybe 2 minutes and 20 seconds were probably the average time on a song. And even if and the thing that I loved about the 50s with the songwriting, and everybody's like, the 50s. The only reason I really adore the 50s is a lot of times, even if you don't know that song, you heard it for the very first time, you catch that story. And to me, that's what makes a hit. When you can captivate that story and connect.
It does seem like those older songs would connect faster with the audience than some songs today take a moment to actually settle into the listener's ear.
And you know the words.
Postman.
And you know the words. Even if you've never heard it before, you will catch yourself singing 50 songs. Like if you turn the 50s radio station on, even if you never heard that song before in your life, you will know the words to those songs.
Well, and if you wrote your song really good, by the time they're done hearing it that first time, they're singing the words.
Oh, yes.
If the chorus is really good, they'll hear the first chorus. By the second and third chorus, they're singing it with you.
That's right.
Those are the ultimate hit songs.
Well, let's find out what he has to say about why short songs are big hits.
Yeah, according to science. This is scientifical.
Hey everyone, James here again. A new report released in December 2020 says that pop songs are getting shorter, and by the year 2030, most will be under 2 minutes long. All of this and reasons why in today's Music Biz. So back in December, a group of scientists who work for Samsung released a report that says our attention spans are shrinking. Now back in the year 2000, the average person's attention span was about 12 seconds long. But today, in 2020, or 2021 now, it's about 8 seconds, which is a 33% drop in just 20 years. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to social media. We're inundated with more content than ever, more often. I mean, open any app on your phone and there is just a slew of new information, new images, new videos, new sounds, new everything. So finding something that actually holds consumers' attention is increasingly difficult. Getting people to listen to a 5-minute song 30 years ago is vastly easier than it is today, which leads people to think that music is getting shorter. And it's not just a thought actually, it's really happening. I mean, if you look at the top 100 songs on Spotify, the vast majority are under 3 minutes long, and even more are under 2 minutes long. And scientists believe that this trend is going to continue. In fact, the scientists behind this report believe that most pop songs will be under 2 minutes in length by the year 2030. That's just 1 decade from now, and who knows where our attention spans will be at that point, probably 6 seconds or even less. And there's a lot of science behind why music is changing in this way, but in the simplest terms, it's a combination of a few things. One, our short attention spans. Artists need to catch our attention faster than ever in order to hold us, especially if we're unfamiliar with their music. I mean, if you're a fan of somebody like Bad Bunny going into a new single, you're likely to give the entire thing a shot. But if you've never heard Bad Bunny before, you're going to give him less than 10 seconds to really grab your attention. Second, everything is streaming these days, and in order to get money from a stream of a song, at least on Spotify, you need people to listen to at least 30 seconds of that track. So you need to grab them early and hold them for at least 30 seconds, which is 5 times as long as the average attention span. This is why a lot of artists, such as DaBaby, have gotten into the habit of hitting their songs fast and furious. DaBaby will start rapping before the song even really begins. He just comes out the gate swinging in order to grab your attention and make you focus. We're hearing far less songs these days that have extended introductions, and even when they do, they often also release a streaming version of the song that cuts off that long intro and gets right to the point, because, at least in theory, that's what consumers want. Backing up this idea is another report from the UK record label Astero, which found that the average song length has shrank by 1/5 in the last 2 decades. In fact, a comparison of the top songs from 1998 and the top songs from 2018 found that the average hit song was over a minute shorter than it was 20 years ago. And to put that in streaming terms, Shorter songs are getting more streams and longer songs are getting less streams. And there's a lot of reasons for that. For starters, you can stream 2 songs by an artist like Lil Pump in the amount of time that it takes you to stream 1 song from a band like U2. So it's easier to just consume more of this music. But also, again, it's all about holding users' attention spans. It's not a matter of whether or not the shorter songs are better than the longer songs. There are arguments for both, and it's based on every individual track. But the fact that it's easier to consume these shorter tracks raises the likelihood that you're going to see more of them in the future, because it's all about getting to that 30-second mark. It's not about writing the most incredible song that anyone's ever heard, because you have to get them to listen to it, and that's a battle of attention spans. So there are a few things that I think are going to happen as a result of this information, of these ideas starting to get out there into the world. And whether or not we actually see songs go all the way down to a 2-minute average or not, I think there are a few trends that we will see continue to rise in the years ahead. Now, the first thing that I think we'll see, and probably the most obvious to the average consumer, is that songs will begin to get faster. Now, there will always be room for acoustic tracks and slow love songs, but by and large, pop music, the top 40, will get quicker. And that means that the traditional 80 to 100 BPM of most pop songs from 20 or 30 years ago is going to be replaced by 120, 140, 160, even 200. That means subgenres like metal, dubstep, techno, and so on that use really high BPMs might start getting fused with traditional pop music to create new and exciting sounds that are also very catching, very engaging, and again, very short. I also think that there are several structural changes that are already happening in pop music that will continue as we move forward. As we've already discussed, the instrumental introduction, which used to be almost in every song, is quickly becoming a thing of the past. There's no longer a 30-second intro before the song begins. Songs just start. Likewise, the chorus has moved. A lot of songs are putting the chorus right at the front of the song. Sometimes they simplify it, they give the beat a little less oomph than it has later in the track, but it's up front to get us hooked into the song and pull us in very quickly. In other cases, the first verse is being shortened so that we get to the hook quicker, but still kind of follow a more or less traditional structure. For songs that choose to go first verse into the chorus, I think that we will see the second verse getting shorter in order to give us back into the pre-chorus and right back to that hook. Because again, it's all about getting people hooked. It's all about giving them the most catchy, most memorable part of the song as soon as possible and hoping that they stick around for at least 30 seconds. So if you can hit the ground running with the first verse, get into the chorus, and get people to stay through it and reach the 30-second mark, then a song has technically already done everything it needs to do to make a little bit of money for the artist and the label attached to it. In fact, on the note of second verses, there's a possibility they could disappear altogether, at least in some songs. Why not go first verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, back into the chorus, and then just be done with it? I mean, a few years ago, and by few I mean decades, it used to go first verse, pre-chorus, chorus, second verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, chorus, chorus, outro. That's way too much material. These days, it's first verse, chorus, second verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, done. There's no long tail to the end of the song. There's not a ton of refrains. It's either an instrumental outro that's very short, or the track just stops. It just kind of ends and leaves you wanting more, hopefully so that you click the replay button. So you might see the second verse disappear, and that's fine because it's gonna make people think outside the box a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying that all of these things are good things, and I'm also not saying that the only way to make a hit song is to write a 2-minute pop track. What I am saying is that if you want to play the game of the music business, which is kind of what the streaming economy is making us do, it's making us rethink the approach to marketing and selling music, well then it's useful to maybe inject some of these ideas into future creative writing sessions, to think about how you can make a song be as catchy as possible, as quickly as possible. Maybe you try moving a chorus to the front of the song just to hook people before you pull them into a bigger, more expansive journey throughout the rest of the track. It's not a bad thing to write a long song. I personally enjoy songs that are longer. I like storytellers in my music. But I also love a really catchy song by someone like DaBaby or Dua Lipa that just hits me with a really great hook, gets me to move my feet, and leaves me reaching for the repeat button. There's no right or wrong way to write a good song. But if you want to play the streaming game and really rack up those numbers and get a lot of people to be clicking replay and not skipping past your songs, then it's useful to use some of the information in this video and some of the knowledge that scientists are gaining by studying our behaviors. And if you want to learn even more about the music business and how it's changing as a result of both the streaming economy, the current coronavirus pandemic, and a million other factors, then click the subscribe button down below, because that is what we do here at Music Biz. My name is James, I'm your guide for the whole thing, and I would be happy if you joined us. So if you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button. And if you have, well then I hope you have a really great week. We're doing a lot of crazy stuff here right now, and I can't wait to share it all with you. And until then, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. Hey everyone, James here again. A new report released in December 2020 says that pop songs are getting shorter, and by the year 2030, most will be under 2 minutes long. All of this and reasons why in today's music.
Oh, it had a little tail going back to the intro there.
Well, I gotta say, I think that is clever advertising when somebody does a song and only gives it, like 30 seconds of play. That is advertising to their other songs. So I think it's clever advertising, because if somebody really likes that song, they'll support you.
And in the old days, if you were to tell an artist like they want to submit their tapes to the record execs and get their attention, they got to get them in the first 30 seconds, because those execs don't listen to more than that.
And
if they
actually,
do,
a lot
you're
of
gonna
times
get
it's
signed.
10 to 15. I think today is more like 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
If you don't capture them within the first 10 to 15 seconds, your track sounds like everybody else's.
Well,
The
and
music sounds like everybody else's.
that
You
brings
need
up
to
a good
totally catch
question.
them there.
Is that enough time? You as an artist, is 2 minutes going to be enough time for you to write a song in the future?
It is. Yes, I have been able to do it, but I agree on the storytelling. I do like the longer songs as well. I like being able to connect, because my story, my message, my writing could be somebody's handbook in the future. So as far as that goes, like songs, like I said, I like them around 3 minutes, but I'm into a good 7-minute jam too myself,
Yeah, my average tends to hit about 4.5 minutes typically.
Yeah. Unless it's a really good song. If it has a really strong message to it, if there's a really good story to it, um then it makes you want to listen to find out how the ending is going to happen.
Now, I did add those to our notes. Storytelling, lyrics, message, meaning. That's the Ange line.
That's right. And make sure you put on there, rules are for fucking breaking.
That first intro.
Break all the rules, because I don't feel that if you don't have a solid piece of writing, you can really come up with a solid melody or beat or any kind of rhythm to anything. And I think once you have your song written and you have it structured out into how many bars you want in your verses and your chorus and your bridge, then that's when you can actually say this will be a 2-minute song.
Yeah, if you can get the best parts of the song out and get it into
a lot
2
of
minutes.
people get paid to write songs. So if you had to write a song in 2 minutes, could you do that? Yes. It is definitely a challenge. I ain't gonna lie. But again, sometimes less is best. So it depends on how you hook in your verses. If you go ahead, you have 4 lines to your verse, and you still want to do 4 lines to your chorus. You can do 4s all the way through. Okay. You do that and your chorus comes in real strong with the meaning to it. Will you still love me tomorrow? All right.
Yeah,
You can do it.
As he was saying, this isn't really him suggesting it because of the music industry so much as the science of our attention spans is a real thing, and this stuff is changing because we're changing.
It has to paint a picture. It really has to paint a picture in order to captivate an audience longer than 30 seconds.
Yep.
You have to have your meaning out there.
At Music Biz, At Music Biz over on YouTube. Good channel. Definitely going to be look at like he's got talks about how TikTok broke marketing forever. That's another one that I'm going to be exploring how these streaming networks are changing the shape of music. It's a future episode. But you mentioned uniqueness, Ange. Go figure. You're leading us in. This next one is all about making a unique hit song, which I think is kind of an important ingredient. It's one thing to have a song that sounds familiar, to people. If it sounds like another hit song, you're off to a good start. But if it has a uniqueness in its sound, it's like you wrote the first hit that sounds like that.
That's right. I love those. I think that's like where I will sit and I will listen to artists, and there are just certain ones that have that unique sound that no matter what they sing on or what they write, like it's that artist.
Well, and what makes like an artist unique? Sometimes it might be the instrument sounds, but most times I think it's the vocal tone, the way a singer sounds. Michael Jackson is unique.
Well, even if it's an
Yeah.
instrumental, it's something that's tickling my ear that I didn't hear before, or that takes me on back in movies and cartoons. A lot of the Disney cartoons, a lot of the instrumentals that were in there, they took you through a stroll, right? Even if it didn't have words, like the melody was unique enough that it carried with you throughout the day. So, just
Well,
saying.
crack that whip and whip it good. Yeah.
Shh. We're talking shh.
Yes, Whip It was Wednesday. John's reminiscing.
Yes.
But you writing a unique song, I think a lot of times is talking about a topic or a subject that people either don't, won't, or try and stay away from, like, altogether. And it catches people because it's like, oh, they're talking about this.
If you can
What
write
what
on
is
a
her name?
unique,
Joan Osborne, when she did what if God was one of us?
Yep.
That was a unique hit song because everyone was afraid to write about God, about their faith, about their religion. Sorry, that was just a example.
No, it's a good example. At that time, that was out of the box theme. Everybody else was writing about one thing, and she went after something unique.
Yes. Today's radio, you listen to it, it's all about like the same topics. And once in a while, you find that great radio station or station like Angified Presents that kind of gives you a whole bunch of different things. So you'll hear about politics, you'll hear about things that people are typically were afraid to talk about or to
Hey.
sing about or to express. And I think that's the big change that is happening right now is that people now, especially with mental health being a big deal, are learning how to release their emotions through music. So a whole big paint bucket with paintbrushes just got spilled of creativity all over. And, in the last video, it was also talking about, different ways that music might be changing. Well, that's, I think, what's going on here is because people are finally starting to connect with themselves and starting to be able to release that out and being able to do it with music being healing and therapy for many of us. It has a way of, releasing that and telling other people how we feel and allowing them to connect with us on a different level that maybe a conversation couldn't do.
Music church.
Huh?
Music church.
Music church,
Yeah. That's what
to some extent, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Amen.
And you've seen like the mental issues with music. We've seen tons of submissions and songs like throughout what we've done where that's what the artists are really tackling.
Yes.
They're
Feeling the
tackling
emotions.
their mental issues in their songs.
Yes. So I think that's the next step in the music industry, and I think that's why they're seeing, and even like when the BandLab community did their show, a lot of things that people had said and commented on were the fact of, well, can you add this genre or can you add this genre? And a lot of them are subgenres of genres, which we may be tackling next year.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So that way we can kind of introduce you guys to the genres and what is the subgenres of it, because maybe you do have a unique one, or maybe it's already there and then you know what to hashtag it. Because there are so many genres out there, I think it would honestly be impossible for anyone to list all of them for selection as to what genre is this.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to do some genre bending.
I feel you.
Okay, I think I've covered enough.
Yeah, we've gone full circle. That's this channel.
Whoa.
At Official FC Music. See, Ange, I can lead it too.
Yeah.
So he's going to show us, how to write a unique hit song, something that stands out from the other hit songs.
Let's see how close I was.
Have you ever sat down to try to write a song hoping it would be a hit, but then you listen back the next day and feel like, dang, this just feels too basic? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you from my own personal experience writing over 1,000 songs, having multiple #1s and Grammy Awards, how to write a hit song without sounding basic or boring. It's really hard, believe me, but I'm going to give you 7 tools to help solve your songwriting problems. Number 1, it's about not being too lyrically on the nose. There's a way to say things simply, and there is a way to say things too obviously. There is a difference. You want to be saying what you want to say without saying it. Sometimes just saying, I love you, is the right thing to say. But most of the time, you want to dig a little deeper and find a way to say it in a little bit different way with more color. There are a lot of ways to say, I love you without saying, I love you. Like, I'm yours, or we were meant to be, or you complete me. Now, none of these are groundbreaking terms in and of themselves, but it's an exercise to show you that sometimes just thinking like a thesaurus is the way to write yourself out of a cliche. And cliches are cliches for a reason. It's because they've been overused, or you've heard it said the same way too many times in other songs before. So that's number 1. Number 2, start with a killer melody and find a lyric that fits the melody. This is how pros like Max Martin write. It's all about the sound and feel of the melody, and then finding the right lyrics to fit with those vowel sounds and rhythms that come most naturally to you. Now, this is kind of how I write. I often will just sing sort of nonsense words just to try to find the right melody, like this. Didn't know the same one, you know I know I be. Don't always say for long and do you differently. Take it away, I'ma go, I'm away. I know today and something about you, and no, I know later. Ooh, I realize love and all the lose and other things, and no. And then I'll fill the lyric in after the fact. Melody is universal. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It's the melody that carries the feeling and emotion of a song. So if you nail a fresh, simple, compelling melody, then you're 70% of the way there. I always think starting with an amazing melody rather than starting with a lyric and trying to make a melody fit the lyric ends up sounding clunky. That's just my own personal experience. All right, number 3, try writing what I call an emo turn-up. An emo turn-up basically means it's a sad lyric over top of a track that has energy. A great example of this is the song Sorry by Justin Bieber. Using balance is a huge thing in making songs not sound too basic or cheesy. And when I say balance, I mean if the lyric is uber sad, maybe don't make the track too obviously sad. This song is a sad, sad song. I don't know what went wrong. So the Bieber one, it sounds hopeful, the melody sounds hopeful while having a sad lyric. Is it too late now to say sorry? Like he could have wrote that with a really sad sounding melody and it would be too much, too much. Is it too late now to say sorry? Is it too late now to say sorry? Like that just sounds depressing, but is it too late now to say sorry? Like that just sounds more hopeful while having a sad lyric at the same time. And then tip number 4 is that killer music can go a long way in creating balance. This is where the track and the production come in, and it's about using contrast and unexpected elements that keep the listener on the edge of their seat. And it keeps them from getting too bored. Earlier, I referenced Max Martin, and to come back to him, he mentions that production and writing are intertwined. It really is one thing. That's how most of today's hits are crafted. The production is integral to the songwriting process. So it can pay big dividends for you to learn a DAW and to learn essential production skills. If you have a very simple melody, oftentimes an interesting piece of music can balance it out well and make the song feel amazing. I mean, look at the chorus of Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. It's such a simple one-note melody, but the track moving on those interesting beats and those hits and those chord moves gives it so much more emotion and swagger. Another key piece of achieving balance is contrast. If you have a busy verse, try making the pre-chorus less busy. Like if you have a verse that's like rapid fire like this, try making the pre-chorus more spaced out. Oh, you know I fall in love. And it's oftentimes just those little rhythmic changes that create just enough contrast from section to section. All right, number 5, simplicity does not equate with a song sounding basic. Simple songs that are also fresh are what we all try to write every day. They are the hardest ones to write. Many times, you've probably heard it said that the chef's best ingredients are the one that they leave out. It's about the restraint of knowing when not to keep adding. This is where you have to do the really hard work of refining. It's taking out every syllable that doesn't need to be there, taking out every musical element that isn't essential, and making sure every melody is easy to sing. The best thing is when you have an amazing singer that sings a simple melody and doesn't feel like they need to show off every single note they're singing. I think a really good example of this is the singer Jessie J. I personally love her voice. She has an amazing voice, but I also think that she overwrites melodies to show off what she can do with her voice and the amazing vocal acrobatics that only she can do. It's impressive, but it doesn't usually equate to timeless hit songs that you can listen to over and over and over and over again. If you have a great voice, it's going to show through, and you don't have to overcompensate with vocal acrobatics and complex melodies and showing off. A great melody sung well is enough. And the answer is often in shifting the rhythms of your melody rather than just the notes. What makes a hook catchy most of the time isn't the notes themselves, it's the combination of the notes and the rhythm and phrasing that you use. Mary Had a Little Lamb, that's an example of a basic rhythm. It works awesome for little kids songs and nursery rhymes, but it's not going to be the basis for the next pop hit. Well, maybe. I say that and it might be. Who knows? Maybe the next pop hit will be one where a genius writer figures out how to make Mary Had a Little Lamb melody work in a brilliant, fresh way. So when we're talking about rhythm, you want to be thinking like a drummer. Think rhythmically when you're coming up with melodies. I think Ryan Tedder does a great job of writing this way. Listen to a lot of his writing, and it has a very urban, rhythmic influence. One example of a song that I got to be a part of that I think has super catchy vocal rhythms is the song Feel Invincible by Skillet, which has gone platinum. It's got literally over 1 billion streams, and it goes like this.
Shot like a rocket up into the sky. Nothing can stop me tonight. You make me feel invincible. Earthquake powerful.
So that's what I'm talking about when I say catchy rhythms. All right, number 7 is to write from the heart. People know if a song is contrived. They know if you just sat down and came up with something that you thought people would like, rather than what is the song that comes straight out of your heart. Write exactly what you need to say. Authentic, genuine emotion is always going to be compelling. It's never going to go out of style. That's what we're all looking for in new music. There are no new notes. There are no new ideas. There are really not even any new human experiences. It's how you spin them in a new way through a heartfelt song that will make your song fresh and timeless at the same time. Now, when in doubt, write from your own story. Some great examples of songs that have done this really well are Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, which came from her personal story and experience leaving Porter Wagoner, who helped give her her start. That song has so much emotion and passion, you can hear it because it's real. Or take Because of You by Kelly Clarkson, which is a song she wrote to reflect the pain caused by her parents' divorce. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't always have to be sad songs, but make sure it's real and authentic. It is truly something like magic when a new song comes on and it encapsulates exactly the feeling that we need to hear in the moment in a way we've never heard it before, but we want to keep hearing it again and again. We've talked in this video about some ways to achieve this as a songwriter. And it really is ultimately up to you as a writer what you do with all of these tools. And really, they are tools. They're not rules. They're tools for problem solving in your songwriting process. If you have a song that you want to share, that you've written, that you feel might be hit-worthy, feel free to comment below, and our team would love to listen. And as always, if you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of the other videos that we're putting out.
Yes, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Tools, fuck rules. Sorry. Shh.
I did subscribe. I hit like twice on that one. I actually added 3 more notes just from that one alone.
The simplicity. Yes, it just has to be a very good laid down track.
Well, he mentioned a couple of things that were really important there. Let's see if we can bring that. The genuine, heartfelt suggestion.
We talk about that a lot.
A lot of those hits are because the artist came out authentic.
Mm-hmm. Dolly. Kelly Clarkson has I think when she did the song when she was an American Idol, I don't think there were many dry eyes in the house that night. The way she was able to connect.
Oh, Dolly connects with me all the time. Like
Dolly also has a very unique voice, so her sound, and I think that's part of the reason too that she was so successful, is because her sound, her presence, is unlike any others.
Oh, presence. I think that's worth adding.
Yeah, I think well, that's not spelled properly, but that's okay. And some of the other things that I had taken notice too when it came to advertising and getting out there, even like on the billboards, all of the agencies are like, a lot of them, they use sex. James is 100% right. Sex sells.
No, there's no denying that. I'm surprised none of them have actually mentioned that yet, but we do have a hip hop one in a little bit that might actually mention that.
My head fits in a glass blue bubble.
Well, and what he mentioned
I
about
don't think I can like show you my legs. They're kind of metal and don't move red, but okay.
What he was talking about with the melody and the melody approach to come up with the unique words to go with your melody. You're like the queen of melody to me. I've seen you do that where you just kind of sound it out. You always go after unique melodies. That's kind of your specialty, and the words kind of find their way in after.
They do. Because it's the music, the melody that makes me feel of what that song should be. It gives me unless somebody, if somebody made a piece of music, Tony, and you will find you made the music,
And the melody you came up with was like completely original.
And I really, I don't remember initially what the idea for melody that you had for it when you
Oh,
were
mine
creating it,
was
because it
so
was
much more basic.
but even going ahead and finding the melody for it, I had to have the words first. I had to know what I wanted to say and how I wanted to deliver it. And I think the delivery of how I wanted to get that message across sticks with the authentic, the feeling of it, and it also sticks with how the structure of the words fit into the melody, where I would have to create breaks and maybe have to rewrite a certain section or reword a certain phrase.
And you kind of had it easy there with that one because the theme and the message we were going for was, what Angify is. So it was like, oh, we're going to explain it in a song.
Yeah, but that still wasn't very easy.
Well, you made it
I
look
know
easy.
it's definitely not what you expected. It took a couple months, for me to be able to say exactly what needed to be said into the message and, what we stood for and, what our mission was. So then, Tony, I'm like
Yep.
slide the beginning all the way down. We're adding 15 collaborators. Musicians don't touch the music.
I think the mic's still muting on you, James.
That is the last.
Give me a test.
Touch it.
So
Well,
that last one was at official Full FC Music over on YouTube. Full Circle Music. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that. I haven't changed anything.
Did you have any extra added input? If not, we've come back full circle, Tony.
I saw the thumbs up.
Yeah. All right. Tools, fuck rules.
So the next one comes from my favorite music channel on YouTube, Rick Beato. I was mentioning him to you the other day, and you were like, "Who's Rick Beato?" This is Rick Beato.
I've watched this guy before.
Oh, everybody who loves music and are musicians have probably come across his channel at one point because his analysis
stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he talks about theory, perfect pitch. I mean, been a couple of topics that he had the perfect explanations for. He's a great teacher, and when it comes to what makes a hit song, he's got a whole playlist, a series of.
You know what I think it was?
Every hit song from rock from the 70s and 80s, he's covered each one in their own episodes and why they were hits.
Nice.
I think I was watching him when I was learning about how to compose horror scores.
Oh yeah. I saw his movie scoring video too.
Well, I want to see how to get over 1 million plays. Hit play, Tone.
Yeah, with this
Touch
it's like
that button.
That's
Push
like
the button, Tony.
That's like a billion plays. billion plays.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, your screen's a little smaller. Like I'm looking at your screen, and it's a little smaller on my end. So, sorry, hard to read.
He's going after the big dogs, the ones that have hit a billion
How many
plays.
subscribers? 3 point.
3.56 million and growing every day.
Beautiful. 1.2 thousand plays. I'm
Oh
trying
yeah.
to blow this up as much
But no,
as I can.
1.2 thousand videos.
Oh, wow.
How's that for a change? He's been at it for like 7-8
Wow.
years. He's like the
Incredible.
king of YouTube for me. at Rick Beato. What he's gonna do, what he's gonna be talking about here is what do these 16 classic songs have? Why do they have over 1 billion Spotify plays? That's a major deal.
Well, let's check out why.
Spotify has 300 plus songs with over 1 billion streams. Out of those, 27 of them are 20 years old or more. So I thought to myself, well, which songs are 30 years old? Meaning, what are the most culturally relevant, timeless songs? That 30-year mark to me is something that's a long time. That's a really long time for a song to be relevant. And I came up with a list of 16 of them, and I'm going to read them off in order of the year that they came out. Number 1 is Bohemian Rhapsody, which came out in 1975. As a matter of fact, it has the most streams of any of these. It's at 1.97 billion streams, almost 2 billion streams on Spotify. Number 2, Hotel California, 1976 it came out. Dreams, Fleetwood Mac came out in 1977. Well, I know why this one is on the list because of the TikTok thing with the guy drinking the ocean spray thing riding his skateboard. That's why that song is on this list. It's not the most popular song on Rumors. I mean, there's many more popular songs than Dreams on Rumors. Dreams is a great song. Don't Stop Me Now, Queen. Okay, there's 2 Queen songs right there. September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Another one, Bites the Dust, Queen. Back in Black, AC/DC. Okay, so now we're to 1980. So we've had 5 songs in the 70s. We've had a song in 75, 76, 77, 2 in 78, nothing in 79. Okay, so almost every year, starting in 1975, we have a 1 billion play song. Then in 81, we have Don't Stop Believin', Journey. 82, Africa from Toto. 82 also is Billie Jean. And then the third 82 song is Under Pressure, David Bowie and Queen. A lot of Queen songs in here. Then we go to Every Breath You Take in 1983, The Police. 1985, so there's nothing in 84. 1985 is Take On Me by Aha. I just had them in a video the other day. 1986 is Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. 1990, so we have a big gap there between 86 and 1990. 1990, Thunderstruck, AC/DC. I'm surprised by that, honestly, that has 1 billion plays. I'm not surprised by Back in Black, but I'm surprised by Thunderstruck. That's amazing, really. That just shows you how popular AC/DC is. And in 1991, Smells Like Teen Spirit has over 1 billion plays. Okay, so what are some takeaways from this? Well, what it takes to write a timeless hit song is hidden in this list. And it happens to be that you have to be the band Queen if you want to write a lot of timeless hits. Why does Queen have so many timeless hits? Well, I've made a video about this. Queen has retained its cultural relevancy for so long. It's really amazing. Right now, Queen has, I think, 40 million monthly listeners on Spotify. That is unbelievable. The Beatles have about 25 million. Well, you know who else has about 25 million is Nirvana. Nirvana hasn't put out a record since 1993. Queen is still out touring. Queen had a biopic that came out a few years ago, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. Not surprising that put them back into the spotlight. But they also are touring. But Nirvana's not touring. Nirvana actually has more monthly listeners than the Foo Fighters does. They have more monthly listeners than any of the grunge bands. Nirvana is a culturally relevant band today in 2022, and they haven't put out anything since 1993. There is no specific genre on this list, okay? We have rock songs like The Police. We have rock songs. Queen are rock songs, Fleetwood Mac rock songs, if you would call them, I guess they're rock songs. You have R&B pop songs like Earth, Wind, and Fire. You have pop songs, Michael Jackson. You have hard rock songs, Journey, Bon Jovi, those are hard rock songs. You have synth pop songs like Aha. You also have alternative rock songs, one of them on here, Smells Like Teen Spirit. So the list is really well distributed in all genres. The only thing that's missing here is rap. And the only reason that rap is missing is because rap isn't old enough. If you go to the 20 plus list of songs with over 1 billion plays, you start to have Eminem, Coolio, you have bands like Linkin Park in there. So it starts to become more diverse. There are rap songs in there that are 20 plus that have over 1 billion plays. To give you some perspective on the songs with the most plays, the most played song on Spotify is Ed Sheeran, Shape of You, which is at 3.2 billion plays. The second most played is The Weeknd with 3.1 billion plays. So the only songs over 3 billion plays. There's I don't know, over 10 songs that have over 2 billion plays. Then we're down into the 1 billion plays. And like I said, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody is almost at 2 billion plays, but that's the only song out of this list that's in the top 100 billion song plays on Spotify. And that tells you something about Bohemian Rhapsody and Queen. Queen is relevant today, as relevant, I would say, today as they were back in the 1970s, or almost as relevant. It's pretty amazing. So I found this list to be fascinating here about bands retaining their relevancy. I made a video about this about a year ago, and I talked about Jimi Hendrix, how he's lost cultural relevancy, and a lot of people from that era that don't allow, I don't mean to be a get into the blocking thing, but people that block their music from being talked about on platforms like YouTube will get forgotten at a certain point. I believe that. I may be wrong. I've been wrong plenty, but I really believe when people stop talking about you, they stop talking about you. And you just see this as these people, these bands, you just look at how many monthly listeners they have, because that tells you how actively people are going out there listening to music. One other thing to think about is why aren't there songs that are older than Bohemian Rhapsody that have 1 billion plays, like Beatles songs or Rolling Stones songs? Is it because those people haven't adopted Spotify? Yes. Is it because maybe there's not all those people are living anymore? Yeah. I mean, the Beatles and the Stones, some of them are 80 years old. Paul's 80, Ringo's 80. A lot of these bands, I was young listening to Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page is 77 now? Robert Plant, 74, 75. There are people that are old, that are not even here, or maybe they can't even hear. Just joking. I'm not joking, actually. Maybe they can't even hear it, or maybe they just don't know how to work Spotify and they're not listening to Spotify. So there is something to that. But maybe there are just not as many people that are engaged in music of that generation anymore into listening to it in that way. So something to think about. Love to know your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. If you're a first-time viewer here, hit the subscribe button. If you watch regularly and haven't subscribed, do it. Thanks so much for watching.
Oh, and I like him so much, I've subscribed to him on every one of my YouTube profiles.
So he hit a couple interesting points on that. It's funny because with the times and changes, honestly, even the song Lollipop, 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 right? I don't want to get into copyright infringements, but even, talking things like that, how many plays would that have? Seriously, it was in the movie Stand By Me, and how many times was Stand By Me viewed? Okay, so you want to talk about views and numbers, there's where there could be a difference on how many times it could have actually been played had Spotify been around at the time when they were out.
Yeah, that's one thing he didn't actually mention too much of was the movie impact on some of those songs he mentioned. Big in movies, Bohemian Rhapsody. There's no denying Wayne's World. Totally blew that song up.
And I think they also set the almost like the music video for Queen because, with the Wayne's World video and the way that they did that in the car, Mike Myers. Well, the way that, that was all done in the car, it was an everlasting thought. So anytime anybody thinks of Bohemian Rhapsody, it automatically puts them to that movie.
They think a teenage stoner's head bobbing in the car.
Yes.
And
And there's
AC/DC,
another thing though.
Thunderstruck.
There
Thunderstruck ended
well,
up being
before we hit that,
Iron
before
Man's song.
oh yeah, absolutely. Ozzy Iron Man. Uh-huh. Yep. Um, but there's another thing that he talked about was, as you can see, like he talked about like Nirvana, um, and some of the other bands that had an impact, and the unique songwriting thing about that again was talking about topics that people didn't talk about. Nirvana, I think, was a very big thing because a lot of people could relate with depression. It was another change, going through the 90s into the 2000s. Here it comes.
And Nirvana was milking that minor like chord approach.
Yes, but you can't take away from Kurt Cobain's lyrics or his vocals, the way he laid them down to express his depression.
Yeah, he did the authenticity thing.
Yeah,
Well, it was real.
heart-shaped box.
It was real, and that's why people were able to relate. Linkin Park, that's another one. A lot of people can relate to the lyrics, to the feelings, to the mental health. So it almost shows like times and periods where the world was okay, and then it kind of took a dip, and then the world was okay, and then it kind of took a dip. And you could also see, back before, it was more about the storytelling, and talking about that topic again. And then it got into, people wanted to hear it. But then when hip hop and rap, he mentioned Eminem, coming into play there, and Coolio. It was because there were beats you could feel. It wasn't necessarily the words. Now it kind of, it was the hook word in it. Okay. But it took people a little while to learn the verses because you weren't able to connect as well with that, but you more felt that beat. So I think some of the songs have more plays due to music, and some have more plays due to lyric writing, which would be interesting to see what the division of that would be.
Yeah, and getting people to move their feet is definitely a bigger thing these days.
And that, again, 1950s music. I accidentally caught myself. Well, actually, the guy behind me accidentally caught me like singing and jamming out.
I mean, I listen mostly for the music, but
Michael Jackson. Here's, you want to talk about like the topics, the unique topics. Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. Okay, what are the lyrics to Billie Jean?
It's not my boy, just
Billie Jean's not my lover. She's just the
it.
girl who says that I'm the one, but the kid's not my son. So somewhere along the lines, he had a one-night stand with this chick. Okay, he don't fucking remember who she is, but she says she has a kid, but the kid's not his son. Not to worry about it.
Or he didn't have a one night stand, and she's just trying to tell everybody she did.
That she slept with him, yeah, for an image. Sure. Okay.
And that happens.
Well, again, it's a unique storyline. Okay. There was another one. Take My Breath Away. Did you ever read the lyrics to that one?
No.
Watching every motion. Okay. It's a fucking stalker song. Come on, really?
Well, isn't that also that Sting song, I'll Be Watching You? That is definitely a stalker song.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, there was another song that
Infatuation.
There was another song the other day, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Is this dad doing something to his daughter? Like, this is really weird. Okay. And it is a big song, and I'll remember it tomorrow, of course. But there's a lot of songs out there, so lyrics became less important as time went on, I think. And I think maybe that's too why songs are getting shorter.
And meanings are getting less meaningful.
Yeah. And people are getting sloppy. Instead of thinking it out, and actually putting thought into it. They're just jumping on a beat saying, I got this. You know, think about it. Like, listen to it a couple of times without throwing anything down. If you don't have anything on it, like, listen to it a couple of times, especially if you want to publish it out. If you're just like playing around and jamming, like, that's one thing. Have fun. But if you plan on doing something with it, listen to it a couple of times, just the melody alone. Like that other YouTube that Tony showed a little bit earlier. That melody alone can tell you less is best, where to put your lyrics to drive that meaning in, especially if you're only allowed 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah. And
God, take away my threes.
if you want to write a hit song, like all the ones we've been looking at and how to write a hit song, ask yourself what kind of hit song, because what Rick was talking about there was timeless hit songs. Most of those were over 20 years old. These
And
are
most of
songs
those were
that
in
stand that.
movies.
Well, that's how you write a good song that can go generations. Eventually, they're going to make a movie and they're going to say, you know what? Thunderstruck. We're going to play that when Iron Man flies in. AC/DC made a killing when that movie came out.
Yes. But AC/DC also is a timeless band.
Yeah.
You know, it was a band that went the distance. And a lot of artists, especially if they want to be serious in the music industry, have to be prepared to go the distance. Don't think, you know, back in the day, you went to the music store, you bought a cassette tape, right? Bought a CD, right? Bought an MP3. Right.
I
Now
never
we pay
bought an
subscriptions to
MP3.
Spotify and all these
Such were
other, you know,
before my
places that
time.
have the music on for distribution, right? But back in the day, if there was one song, you paid for a whole album. Now you don't
Unless
get that
you bought the 45.
opportunity. But artists were able to make money that way. These days, it's harder for artists to make
Right.
albums
You could
because
just have
even
one
that
hit
one
song
song,
on the album, you know.
they have that one hit song on that album, but you never know. Maybe like 2 years down the line, you know, people are listening to it, and that album was so cohesive, and they didn't hear it at first, that another song becomes a little bit more familiar to them, and then that song ends up turning out to be, you know, their hit.
Yeah. And a lot of record companies, when they would be trying to promote an artist, needed to have at least a couple of hit songs on that album to know they could push the whole album, to push a tour. You got to have at least a couple of songs on that album. One good song on the album did not necessarily sell an album.
Correct. And usually, like, your first, your last, and somewhere in between the middle is the hit songs.
And if you were smart, you threw like a ballad in. That was kind of a rule in the 80s bands. You got to have at least
Yeah.
one ballad on the album. Home Sweet Home.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the Japanese bonus track.
A Japanese bonus track.
Yeah,
that is
that's the
a thing.
Do you know what? I think out of
It
all the
is.
bonus tracks,
I
Green
used
Day
to know the reason for
still
it, but I
captures my
forget.
heart on that one. You know, I don't think there was back in the day, you know, on the CDs they had those hidden tracks, you know, and it was really cool because a lot of times you fell asleep to the music. Well, I did anyway. I always had my CDs going, you know, and I'd fall asleep to the music, and maybe that's why I need lullabies now. Anyways, sorry, working out some childhood problems.
Sorting it out.
So,
Teacher.
but I would fall asleep, and it was really cool to, you know, hear something completely like random that you fall asleep, and then you're like, what the hell is that? You know, those feelings that you didn't get them too often, but when you got them, it was kind of cool. So I thank you, Green Day. Especially to hear something
Blame it
like
on
that. You
Green
didn't wake
Day.
up bad. You didn't wake up mad. You didn't wake up shocked. You woke up and you're like laughing. Because literally you were a teenager waking up all by yourself.
I didn't
Anyways.
sleep as a teenager.
There you go. There's another hit by Green Day that they probably don't even realize was a hit.
So I did mention we have one that actually is rap orientated,
Yeah.
which surprisingly, like from what Rick was saying, like rap is still kind of too new to really have had the impact on Billboard charts the way that these other hits have and sales. It's still an emerging market. We kind of gotten used to it because it's been around since the 80s for us, but it hasn't really saturated the market as much as it seems.
Well, I think with rap, it's still finding subgenres. And, as rap has progressed, it's looking for that subgenre that is going to capture this generation and the next.
And catapult it into like Billboard's attention.
Correct. Because, if you really think about it, it came into the rap game, of course, you had Eminem, you had Big Pun, Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Coolio, Run DMC, you had some amazing rap hip hop artists. And, it was like when it was new, it was like, oh, this is cool. It's a new sound. Okay. And then I think, yeah, we did get used to it. But as, we're all seeing it, it's blending into country. It's blending into metal. It's blending into, different places where it never was before. It's evolving.
Oh, and you can thank Little Nas for all that country in the last couple of years coming out of hip hop.
Yeah.
And Linkin Park, I think, kind of got people accustomed to the whole idea of like a little bit of metal, a little bit of rapping.
Yeah.
Cypress
Absolutely.
Hill.
Them, Limp Bizkit.
Oh yeah, on the metal side for sure.
Yeah.
Biscuit.
Don't biscuit me, bro.
Stop
So
biscuiting us.
this
Yeah,
channel,
Biscuit. I'm bad. I have a Z in my name.
this channel is at How to Rap Official, and it's official over on YouTube. And this one is about like how hit songs are made from the rapper and producer workflow. So that got my attention.
You know what I really find neat when it comes to rap and hip hop mixing is a lot of times if there is a complete change to catch the listener's view, the chimes and the little bells they're sticking in behind it to offset that maybe key that didn't exactly fit. I don't know if
And
you've
you-
heard that lately, but that's something I've been listening to
And you
and
definitely
hearing more and
see
more.
in the rap hip hop world, production and all of that really is an important part of the whole making of it. The beat making, a lot of it tends to be more on the production side than like an actual instrumentalist.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to learn how hit songs are made by the rappers and producers.
That's right. Push the button.
Sounds good.
Today's episode of How to Rap, we're lifting the veil off the intricate collaboration between rappers and producers, dissecting the transformative workflow that transmutes raw concepts into chart-busting rap anthems. Grasping this process is critical for those aspiring to make their mark in the rap industry. Song creation isn't just a product of sheer luck or impulsive inspiration, rather it's an art grounded in method and understanding. Without this strategic insight, artists can find themselves lost in a maze of unproductive endeavors, resulting in frustration and, in some cases, the premature giving up of their dreams for music. Our goal is to shield you from this undesirable outcome. The harmonious interplay between rappers and producers serves as the backbone of the music industry, particularly given the contemporary dominance of rap as the world's most influential genre. By mastering the lessons we're about to unfold, rappers will be armed with the expertise to churn out hit after hit, sidestep the dreaded one-hit wonder curse, and collaborate seamlessly with other artists and producers. In a nutshell, this breakdown is about empowering artists to consistently craft music that resonates with audiences, because without a thorough comprehension of the rapper-producer synergy, artists' paths to a professional career could be fraught with obstacles. So whether you're simply a fan of the culture or an up-and-coming artist looking to elevate your crafts, this deep dive into the rapper-producer workflow could unleash the change you've been looking for. Now, the first step for any brand new rapper, meaning 6 months or less writing experience, is often mastering the ability to even write on a beat consistently and with unique flows. The easiest way to understand flow as a concept is that it's drum patterns in word form. In other words, another instrument in the sound bed of production that the beat maker will eventually provide. With this in mind, the first question that always arises in their head is, do I write the lyrics before finding a beat, or do I select the beat and then write words that fit to it? If a rapper is just starting out, as in 6 months or less of experience writing raps, the best habit is composing lyrics to a beat from the outset. This does not discount practicing without beats for a brand new artist within the first 6 months of their rap journey, but this form of exercise should primarily be a stepping stone during their early days as they develop fluidity in writing and freestyle experimentation. After the initial 6 months, every lyric a budding rapper crafts should be attuned to a beat. This method is pivotal as it helps the rapper's cadence and mental rhythm lock in place automatically to any syncopation the producer provides. That ability to meld to any beat style provided is exactly what separates an artist like Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne, or the Notorious B.I.G., all well known for their ability to flow immaculately on a variety of beat styles, and a rapper who is pigeonholed to one subgenre of rap, such as a street rapper who can only spit over Dipset type beats, or an auto-tune melodic artist who can only sing over Metro Boomin style tracks. Therefore, from the very start, the goal of an up-and-coming rapper should be to train their mind and their intrinsic ability to stay on tempo. They should aim to deftly synchronize their lyrics, born out of their imagination, with a beat, even more so when dealing with a variety of beat types. Now, if you yourself are one of these brand new artists still getting their skills down on how to write to any beat style and on any topic, we have a free video course, How to Write a Rap on Any Topic in 20 minutes or less, which you can pick up right now for free by clicking the first link in the video description box below. Now, embarking on their journey to a professional rap career, the novice rapper's initial challenge lies in discovering suitable beats. In the early stages of their career, these emerging artists often begin by practicing on freely available demo beats on platforms like here on YouTube. As long as the music developed from these beats from the rapper is not intended for profit, there are minimal legal concerns. This massive repository of daily released beats provides a playground for budding rappers to hone their skills, practice writing, and record for personal use or to share with their close circle of friends. However, things take a turn when these artists transition from practicing their craft to releasing their music for monetary gain. Here, using a beat from a producer without acquiring proper rights or permissions can lead to legal repercussions from the original beat maker. That's a rookie mistake to avoid, indeed, if you're a new artist. Once their skills and confidence have been honed to a level where fans eagerly anticipate their work, rappers can contemplate producing a project. But before that, releasing singles until a fan base is developed is often a more strategic move. When ready to transition into releasing music on a larger scale, these rappers may explore leasing options. Producers frequently offer such leasing options at affordable rates, providing certain limits on plays on platforms like Spotify or YouTube and settling any legal complications. So in the world of rap, the journey from a clean slate to a promising project for newer artists and producers begins with a simple yet crucial step: finding and securing the right beats and the legal ramifications around them. Now, navigating the intricate world of beats is an art within itself, often leaving artists wondering how to select the right one. In the realm of rap, this decision carries significant weight. So let's take an in-depth look at how intermediate to advanced rappers with 2 or more years experience under their belt approach this decision. The first step lies in understanding the target market or fan base and what they're likely to enjoy. Now, this may sound intricate, but it's often often as simple as internalizing the vibe of a song. Does it resonate as a radio hit, a street anthem, or an emo track? If you yourself are a rapper or just a fan of rap music, you can pretty much always intuitively grasp the type of audience that a particular beat would appeal to, what emotion it might evoke, where it would be played, and what responses it might trigger in listeners. This recognition of the emotional undertone of a beat forms a fundamental part of the rapper's workflow. It's worth noting, however, that an artist's personal emotional state can also guide their choice of beats. Their life phase, emotional resonance, or personal circumstances can significantly influence that selection. For instance, Kendrick Lamar's Damn album demonstrates this connection very vividly. Tracks like Humble, Loyalty, and DNA reflect a certain emotional state he was in at the time, possibly feeling underestimated or a desire to see more authenticity in the culture, and that came out in the beat selection and the musical sound bed of that album. Conversely, To Pimp a Butterfly shows a different set of emotions, reflecting more on social consciousness and Black identity echoed in the jazzy beats and politically charged narratives in the songs. So rappers either hear a beat and reverse engineer the emotions it evokes, leading to the crafting of a song, or they could be experiencing a particular emotion or set of emotions and seek out beats that resonate with that current state. This interaction with beats can be seen, for example, in Jay-Z's experience while working on The Blueprint. The soulful samples brought in by Kanye West eventually shaped the emotional tone of the album, leading Jay-Z proactively to seek more beats in that vein. The resulting album is a melange of sample-heavy tracks by both Kanye and other producers like Just Blaze on Girls, Girls, Girls and You Don't Know, reflecting the fusion of evoked and sought-out emotions that were inspired by some of Kanye's beats and Just Blaze as well. Now, once the beat has been chosen and the emotion is understood, the stage is set for the rapper to craft a song, encapsulating their emotional journey and sharing it with their audience. So beat selection is always going to be a critical decision in every rapper's career at every moment they have to do it. Now, the harmonious synergy between a rapper and producer is essential in the song creation process as well. This becomes apparent once the rapper has penned their lyrics and is ready to record the track. This stage reveals how a producer can significantly influence the final piece. And of course, it's common to have a producer present in the studio with the rapper, although less so in these remote times and global music industry. Their in-person collaboration allows for an active interplay, manipulating the beat structure to fit the rapper's vision. A beat initially created with a certain structure by the producer, let's say like he makes it verse, chorus, breakdown, that may not always seamlessly align with the rapper's written song once it's done. As the rapper voices their desire for a different beat arrangement, starting, let's say, with a chorus and then transitioning into a verse, different than the beat he heard just pre-made by the producer often adjusts the beat accordingly. Such real-time adjustments, however, may not always be an option, particularly if the rapper is working remotely or if the producer sells their beats online. Under such circumstances, changing the beat often requires purchasing a higher license or paying additional fees. This is reflected in the tier-based pricing seen online on sites like BeatStars, where a more expensive tier allows beat modifications. Changing a beat from an industry perspective is a significant shift as it fundamentally alters the music structure. Therefore, more money is on the table because it's a 50-50 partnership as far as the music industry contracts are concerned. Once the beat has been altered to the rapper's satisfaction and the recording process starts, the producer's role doesn't end there. They usually continue to mold the final track, adding subtle touches such as dropping a beat during a hard-hitting line or making minor modifications to enhance the overall impact of the song. But in cases where the producer is absent from the recording process, altering the beat structure can be more challenging and costly. High-profile producers may even express their dissatisfaction if they feel like their beat has been tampered with without their direct involvement, leading to possible friction, such as well-known concerns voiced by producers such as Metro Boomin and Young Chop. This symbiotic relationship between the rapper and their producer, either in person or remotely, is instrumental in shaping the final song. It's a dynamic process that involves creative cooperation, sometimes legal negotiation, and mutual respect for each other's creative spaces. The producer, in this sense, is not merely a beat creator, but an integral part of the song creation process, helping the rapper's vision come to life. Now, once a song is recorded, the creative process is far from over. The next stage often involves an audio engineer, either remotely or in person, who brings their unique flavor to the song. In the rap world, the engineer's role goes beyond just cleaning up the audio or ensuring proper sound quality. For instance, certain producers, particularly from the trap or New York scene, prefer the incorporation of ad-libs. That's the background voices, the trash talking that fill the background. Of course, you can think about Rick Ross, all those sounds. This ad-lib layer creates an auditory bed that can further influence how the beat is manipulated by the producer, adding an extra level of texture and complexity to the song. Engineers are also known to experiment with the soundscape of the song, adjusting the tonal quality, pitch, and other attributes of the vocal recordings to achieve a desired effect. Interestingly, there's an emerging breed of hybrid artists in the rap scene who transcend the traditional roles we've talked about. These multifaceted artists not only rap, but they also may handle their own engineering or producing, bringing a unique perspective to their creations. Notable among them is Travis Scott, renowned for his innovative engineering work both as the engineer and as a rapper. He's developed a distinctive style in editing his own vocals, leading to a recognizably Travis Scott sound that others look up now. Another such hybrid figure is Mike Dean, a veritable legend whose contribution to the rap genre just can't be overstated. A producer, engineer par excellence, Mike Dean's sound engineering prowess coupled with his production abilities have significantly shaped Kanye West's music post around 2008-2009. With a knack for spanning multiple genres, Dean's versatility is evident in his work from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy to Ye and many others. And of course, there's the rapper, producer, engineer triad that's epitomized by artists like Russ. Now, the workflow varies depending on an artist's skill set and level of involvement in different stages of song creation, but these hybrids are often becoming more common. Of course, we can think about rapper producers like J. Cole and of course Kanye, but whether you're a budding rapper or an aspiring producer, hopefully this overview of the process has helped you along the way. And remember, every artist has their unique workflow, and the key is to find what resonates with you. Now, we'd like to see you in the comments. What is your favorite rapper-producer combination of all time? Is it Dre and M? Is it Kanye and Jay? And of course, there are many others. Let us know in the comments, and if you are an artist yourself watching this, be sure to pick up that free course in the video description. I've been your host, Drew Marcy, the big homie Drew for How to Rap. I'm out.
Oh, that is some good stuff.
Yes, it was.
It's interesting to see the dynamics between the rapper and the producer in this case, and the importance of that combination. And once in a while, you get the one who's both a rapper and a producer. Kanye.
Yes.
Or Ye.
There's some. Yes, there's definitely some notable ones, that own their sound. And
Well,
they
insist on
take
owning their
songwriting
sound.
from a different perspective because the beat's already provided, and then they've got to find the lyrics. So if that producer doesn't like that, they're back to the drawing board. They'll make it in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Sorry.
Yeah. and what he was mentioning there about like how the good rappers will feel out the beat for the audience, and
Yes.
how they're gonna take what you do with the beat is just as important as what you say on top of it. It's a genre where you really have to be focused on the music that you're singing on top of.
Well, I think, like I was saying earlier, somewhere along the lines, the lyrics got lost and the beat got more felt than the lyrics. And I think now, because there has been so much change all around the world, people want to hear other people's messages and stories, which is a beautiful thing. So now let's hear those lyrics.
Like you were saying, we're seeing rappers with more message now.
Yes.
They're starting to come back out and express themselves, not just, the freestyling is all fun, but a lot of the freestyling doesn't really hit serious messages most times. It's kind of like, somebody who's just throwing out ad libs, what they were talking about. Like, we just throw out an ad lib, and that can work for so long, but it's hard to get taken serious as an artist if you only do that.
Yeah, and a lot of producers freestyle unless you have a unique sound. You're not going to catch their ear. they're going to be looking at your writings, and if you don't have writings or your writings are not well put together, they're going to be like, next.
Yeah, and when it comes to the rappers, those producers are also going to be looking at image, the image that the artist is giving. Sometimes they don't care whether you're about to go to jail. Like in some cases, that's actually promotion. Some of those rappers in the 90s got infamous before they got famous.
And that was really funny too, because that became a very questionable topic back then. If you're incarcerated, should you be able to write a song and gain an income?
Well, it depends what you're being incarcerated for.
Well, I remember that being a topic back then too. But
well, yeah, the dude that was
and I have to say like producer artist that stands out between the 90s, and you don't hear too much of him anymore, but that had to be Puff Daddy. Next to Snoop Dogg and Puff Daddy and Cypress Hill, like those three artists right there pretty much swallowed the rap game back then.
Yeah. Well, and Snoop has proven that he's in it for the long game.
And I'm sorry, and I cannot forget Dr. Dre.
Oh yeah, Dre was smart enough to actually get into the hardware, like his headphones and shit kick ass.
Yes. I cannot leave out Dr. Dre. My bad. But yeah, it is very nice to hear a lot of more positive messages, spiritual messages coming through, with the rap now, and being able to actually understand the lyrics, being able to, understand the messages. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see where rap evolves to.
Well, I always liked the faith rap. Faith rap is a great subgenre under hip hop that I find some of the most positive songs that are out there right now.
I have to agree.
They mix gospel in. They're not afraid to show their faith. I don't even care which faith it is. It's just beautiful to see it when it's genuine like that.
And even if you don't see it, even if you're just listening and you're closing your eyes, it takes you on that journey and you see it. So that's I love that. I don't need to understand your language. I don't need to speak your language. I can still hear what you say. I understand.
I feel like I speak your language.
Oh. Did
Well,
I talk enough tonight?
Oh, you did. And I knew songwriting and writing a hit song, that was right up your alley.
I like to write.
And I made notes. I'm gonna show them to Kevin later.
All right.
Got a whole bunch of notes in here as far as hit song ingredients.
He's gonna like that.
Yeah, in the future, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to prioritize them, because I think in this list, one of these is the ultimate you don't want to ignore. But I think all of them are important.
I think they're all important. Like that one video said, 7 tools. There are 7 elements. And a lot of times, you don't think about it until you actually, and I know there was a question earlier, is a song ever complete? It's complete when you say it's complete.
Well,
but that doesn't mean somebody else is going to say, I like it this way. And so it's not complete until it's done this way.
And one of the best sayings I've ever heard is songs are surrendered. They're never complete. Because that's what I've always felt like. I have to surrender the song.
Absolutely. You hear a song from 5 years ago and then you listen to it now, because you probably sang along with that song. The way that you present it is going to be a lot stronger than when you used to sing it. Even if you used to sing it all the time, it's going to be a lot stronger now than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. But remember, timeless. Like that was one of the criteria for writing a hit song is it should be timeless.
It should be.
Otherwise, it's only going to be a hit in that moment. That was an awesome show. Thank you, James. Thank you, Ange, for joining us. The two of you are almost as tall as Glenn.
Man. Well, I was hoping that, like, at least my face would be somewhat as big as his.
Actually, with that ball, your head is pretty close.
Yay!
I feel like I got Glenn in a crystal ball.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Glenn, for letting me take your place and making me a head of glass. Don't worry.
Well, and
Hopefully I won't break. I don't have an ass. Stay away from the rhyming, but if you do the rhyming, be very strategic about it. Not every song needs to have that rhyming hook to make it a hook or successful.
Yeah, rhyming doesn't have to get in your way with songwriting, just like poetry. You don't have to get forced into that rhyming box.
But if you do come up with a fucking awesome rhyme, I'd love to hear it.
Actually, that'll make a good theme for one night, and we'll bring you back. Rhyming night.
Yay! Well, I guess we talked enough. Let's get out of Tony's hair.
I'm going to get in that ball. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. James, awesome to have you. And Glenn will be back next week, and we'll be talking some more.
Talk more IT.
That's the shit. Good night, everyone.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I didn't
spot.
even notice. 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.